Chapter 584. Yun Noa felt as if all the blood in her body had turned cold. "What's wrong, Dad? What on earth happened?" Yun Noa forced herself to ask rationally. "We don't know either. The Yun family was suddenly investigated by the higher-ups. Also, your brother has been detained because of what happened at the company." Yun Noa's father took a deep breath. "I'm still thinking of a way to get your brother out. Don't cause trouble." With that said, Yun Noa's father hung up. Yun Noa did not dare to imagine that that person would be so ruthless for Bei Yunja's sake. He would not even let the Yun family off. Thinking of this, Yun Noa gritted her teeth and called Tseng Su. Fortunately, Tseng Su did not block her number. However, from Tseng Su's voice, it was obvious that he knew that she would come looking for him. "Miss Yun, what's the matter?" Tseng Su asked with a smile. "Was Master Du behind what happened to my family?" Yun Noa's voice was trembling. Tseng Su did not answer. Instead, he smiled and said, "Were you behind Miss Pei's matter?" As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Noa's scalp went numb. It was really for Bei Yunj. "You did this just for Bei Yunj? Was it Bei Yunj who told Master Du that I was the one who did it?" Yun Noa's voice was a little crazy and her eyes were red. How could she not compare to that girl who came back from the slums? "Miss Pei, Master Du will investigate too. Everyone who has designs on Miss Pei will not be able to escape." Tseng Su smiled. After all, Miss Pei is the person in Master Du's heart. As soon as she returned home, Bei Yunj was informed by Auntie Miao that something seemed to have happened to Wuxia and he had to go abroad for a few days. Although Wuxia would text Bei Yunj every day. For some reason, Bei Yunj had a vague feeling that something had happened. A few days later, in the evening. A girl's bar. Bei Yunj lowered the brim of her hat and scanned the people around her. She found a boy in a black t-shirt not far away. Lu Unc. Bei Yunja's tone was not very friendly. "You're here, Master Pei. How are your teeth now?" Lu Unc stood up and asked with a smile. "Bei Yunj, let's go to the private room." Chu Zhixing was there too. It was obvious that this was to make up for the previous birthday party. "Let's go before 9:30. Bei Yunj suppressed his twitching eyebrows and glanced at the two of them leisurely. 9:30? Isn't it too early?" Lu Unc frowned. "There's a curfew at home." Bei Yunj laughed lazily. Subsequently, just as everyone was about to leave, they suddenly heard a shout not far away. This attracted their attention. Everyone looked over and saw a table of people making things difficult for the two waiters. "Is it so difficult for you to have a few drinks? I didn't ask you to sleep with me." The man was wearing a suit, but his mouth was saying extremely obscene words. When Lu Unc and the other boys heard this, they unconsciously frowned. Although this kind of thing was extremely common in such a place where fish and dragons mixed together. "Sorry, my friend can't drink." Another slightly cold female voice sounded, but it attracted Bei Yunja's attention. She turned around and found that one of the girls who was protecting the waitress whose chest was drenched was Song Yao. Bei Yunj frowned. Then, before Lu Unc and the rest could react, they saw Bei Yunj walking over. On the sofa. Chapter 585. "After you drink this wine, I'll let your friend go." That man stared at Song Yao unabashedly, his eyes full of lust. This scene was noticed by many people. However, when the people who originally wanted to help the two waiters saw a handsome man in a black silk shirt with curly hair sitting opposite them, they gave up on this idea. It was Fu Yanbai, the young master of the Fu Corporation. "Don't embarrass me, Miss Song. Could it be that you and your friend don't want to work here anymore?" The man smiled maliciously. Even though Song Yao's work pass was a fake name, he still called her Miss Song. It was obvious that they were old acquaintances. Song Yao pursed her lips and felt Fu Yanbai's gaze on her. The corners of her lips twitched slightly. Then she reached for the wine on the table. But in the next second, her other slender hand picked up the wine glass even faster. Her clear and lazy voice sounded lazily. "I'm sorry, she can't drink. I'll drink this wine for Yao Yao." With that said, Bei Yunj took the wine on the table and drank it in one gulp. Song Yao was stunned by this scene. "Yunj, why are you here?" Bei Yunj glanced at her. It was obvious that she did not want to talk to her right now. At this moment, the man stood up suddenly and his expression changed. "Who are you? Do you know?" Just as Bei Yunj turned around and saw Bei Yunj's face clearly, the man was dazed. He thought that the elder young miss of the Song family was unforgettable enough. However, this person in front of him could be said to be stunning. Even Yu Ling, whom Fu Yanbai was deeply in love with back then, could not compare to her. "So you're Miss Song's friend?" The man immediately revealed an even more malicious smile and poured a glass of wine for Bei Yunj with a smile. "Since we're friends, of course we have to drink more." Hearing this, behind them, Lu Yuanxi and Chu Zhixing frowned and their eyes turned cold. "Yunj, don't worry," Song Yao bit her lip. She knew that Fu Yanbai was deliberately making things difficult for her and did not want Bei Yunj to get involved. Suddenly, Bei Yunj held her hand and chuckled. "Why don't you drink more?" Before the man could react, Bei Yunj picked up the wine glass on the table. Before anyone could react, the wine was poured over his head. The man was so drenched that he shivered and did not come back to his senses for a moment. The next moment, he heard her chuckle. "How is it? Are you sober now? How dare you treat me like this?" The man was furious. He wiped his face and looked at Bei Yunj in disbelief. She wished she could skin Bei Yunj alive. This scene stunned Song Yao completely. She stood rooted to the ground in a daze and forgot to pull Bei Yunj. "The first cup is to give you face. The second cup is to remind you to save your face and get lost. Do you understand, everyone?" Bei Yunj looked at him with a faint smile. He slowly put down the wine glass, but the coldness in his eyes was terrifying. It made everyone present feel inexplicably shocked. It seems like Miss Pei's temper has always been bad. Suddenly, Fu Yanbai, who had been silent all this while, spoke. "You're really courting death. You even dare to interfere in young Master Fu's matters?" The man wiped his face with a tissue and said fiercely to Bei Yunj. He hoped that Fu Yanbai would quickly teach this reckless little tch a lesson. "So it's young Master Fu. I'm sorry. My deskmate has a bad temper." Lu Yuanxi walked over from the side and stood beside Bei Yunj. He had a hand in his pocket and smiled casually. Chapter 586. He's the young master of the Lu family? The people around Fu Yanbai immediately recognized Lu Yuanxi. Then, Chu Zhixing also came over and spoke elegantly. "President Fu, I'm sorry to have disturbed your mood." With that said, the people behind Fu Yanbai widened their eyes. This is the second young master of the Chu family? Why were all the people around this girl so important? Why, are you her deskmate too? Fu Yanbai stared at Chu Zhixing for a while and asked. The Chu family and the Fu family had a relationship. "No, but that's our Master Pei." Chu Zhixing chuckled. It was obvious. Both of them were protecting Bei Yunj. After a long time, Fu Yanbai's gaze shifted to Bei Yunj. He smiled as well, his eyes burning. "You're very capable. Can anyone become your helper if you want?" But the way he looked at her seemed to be looking at another person through her. He wanted this girl. However, the troublesome thing was that he could not offend that person from the Hua family. Song Yao grabbed Bei Yunj's hand and looked at Fu Yanbai warily. How could she not tell that Fu Yanbai's attitude towards Bei Yunj was very different? Young Master Fu, the Fu family can't withstand the torment. Do you need help? Bei Yunj chuckled, her beautiful eyes filled with arrogance and hostility. With that said, the people around Fu Yanbai could not help but look at Bei Yunj. They felt that Bei Yunj was bold and curious about her. Did this woman know what status the Fu family had? She was so happy. She dared to say such words. The Qin family is at its peak now, but it doesn't mean that they can touch the Fu family. As for that person from the Hua family, do you think he will deal with the Fu family for you? Fu Yanbai smiled. Young Master Fu, you're so confident. Why don't you think about why you can't get the 11 project? Bei Yunj asked with a smile. When Fu Yanbai heard this, the calmness on his face disappeared and his eyes darkened. How did she know about the 11 project? Did Hua Shidu tell her? The Qin family was not involved in any technology projects, so it was almost impossible for them to know that the Fu family was talking about the 11 project. This was the right to use a regional project that the Fu Corporation had bought from the Delaney Group. It was the first project of the researchers who had obtained Busaka and Ferisk some time ago. Apart from the Fu's enterprise, there were also other companies in a land vying for this piece of juicy meat. However, Delaney was the first to reject the Fu Corporation. Even the reason was very perfunctory and puzzling. How do you know about the 11 project? I thought you would ask me why I couldn't get the 11 project. Bei Yunja's bright eyes curved into crescents, looking lazy and arrogant. After saying this, she pulled Song Yao and left the hall on the first floor. Everyone else was silent. For a moment, the atmosphere was a little cold. Originally, he had come to take care of Song Yao today as a routine, but he did not expect an accident. Young Master Fu, about Song Yao. At this moment, the boss of the bar ran over, his back covered in sweat. He couldn't afford to offend Fu Yanbai, but he couldn't afford to offend the Chu and Lu families either. They were really making things difficult for him, a businessman. I won't let her off. Fu Yanbai's voice was cold. If it wasn't for Song Yao, Yu Ling wouldn't have jumped into the sea to commit suicide. Master Pei, why are you smashing someone's place just because of a disagreement? Chapter 587. It was Chu Zhixing's first time seeing someone scold Fu Yanbai like that. He did not know how Fu Yanbai had offended Master Pei. I gave him face, but he didn't want it. After Bei Yunj finished speaking slowly, he turned to glance at Song Yao. What's wrong with you? The adventures of a silly work girl? Song Yao said. No, it's just that my family isn't very well off. Bei Yunj did not notice at first. After all, Song Yao's aura did not seem like a girl from an ordinary family. Did something happen at home? After Bei Yunj brought her into the private room, he let go of her and pulled off the work pass on her chest. He took off his coat and put it on her. I'm bankrupt. Song Yao nodded. She looked gentle and calm. Lu Yuanci could not help laughing. Master Pei, can you not be so fierce to girls? Pei Yunj glanced at him. I'll go get the wine. Lu Yuanci immediately turned and left. Don't drink. I'll get Lu Yuanci to send you back later. Bei Yunj glanced at Song Yao and smiled lazily. After all, I'm a girl. It's not safe for me. Lu Yuanci was speechless. You're F***king afraid of being unsafe? Was he the one who poured wine on someone's head at the table just now? Song Yao could not help but laugh. I can go back myself. Nothing happened. I'll send you back. My desk mate is my friend. With that said, Lu Yuanci opened the door and went out. Meanwhile, Chu Zhixing and the other students were playing in the private room. At this moment, Song Yao roughly told Bei Yunj about what had happened at home. Because Song Yao had offended Fu Yanbai had used the Fu Corporation to make the Song Corporation bankrupt. Song Yao's father could not bear the burden and committed suicide, leaving her and her mother to live together. However, perhaps because Fu Yanbai felt that this was not enough, he forced her to work in a bar. He would come and find trouble with her a few times a month. Actually, the reason why I'm restudying is not because of anything else. At that time, I had already received the acceptance letter from Jin University, but because of Fu Yanbai, I was disqualified. Song Yao said calmly without any resentment. Jin University's admission scores for the past 2 years were not much different from Yun University's. Because of Yu Ling, a woman he likes, Song Yao said. Bei Yunj frowned and looked at her. Yu Ling? Previously, she had heard Huashidu talk about this person. Yes, we're classmates. When she was in her second year of high school, she started chasing Fu Yanbai. The two of them often quarreled because of the difference in status. Song Yao said with a smile, Yu Ling always felt that Fu Yanbai didn't respect her, and she knew that I used to like Fu Yanbai too, so she often came over to ask me to be with Fu Yanbai after quarreling. Almost every time they quarreled, she would hear Fu Yanbai say in front of Yu Ling and everyone else that he didn't like her and coax Yu Ling. She was a socialite who had been pampered since she was young, but she couldn't compare to Yu Ling. Song Yao took a deep breath. However, there's indeed something wrong with Fu Yanbai. After finding out about Yu Ling's existence from the Fu family, old Master Fu didn't agree to let Yu Ling in. On the other hand, Yu Ling was proud and wanted to leave when she threw a tantrum, but Fu Yanbai imprisoned her in his house. In order to coax Yu Ling, Fu Yanbai asked me to talk to her. Chapter 588. Did she fall in accidentally? Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow. The rumors outside were that she had committed suicide. A person like her won't commit suicide. She knows very well that Fu Yanbai dotes on her. As long as she makes a fuss, Fu Yanbai will give her everything. Song Yao smiled. No matter how sick Fu Yanbai's feelings for Yu Ling were, Yu Ling was still able to handle him. She knew that only Fu Yanbai could give her what she wanted. You're not friends with her, right? Bei Yunj glanced at her. Song Yao nodded hesitantly, but she pinched the corner of her skirt unconsciously. This was the first time someone had said this. As for the others, they always thought that she had a good relationship with Yu Ling. But no, it was never like that. Silly girl. Bei Yunj smirked unconsciously and poked Song Yao's head with her index finger. But no one will find trouble with their friends time and time again. I've never liked her. Song Yao did not hide her feelings for Yu Ling at all. Do I look like her? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. If they were really that alike, why did Song Yao treat her so well the moment they met? As a result, Bei Yunj had always wondered if this girl was stupid. Do we look alike? Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj and shook her head. I don't think so. She liked Bei Yunj because Bei Yunj was good-looking. She looked like the ragdoll cat she had raised before when she was half asleep on the table. Hearing this, Bei Yunj lost interest in Fu Yanbai and his wife. How much money does your family owe? Bei Yunj asked. I know you're very good, but I shouldn't trouble you. Song Yao had a bottom line in her heart. There were some things that she shouldn't trouble her friends with. Bei Yunj took out a card and stuffed it into Song Yao's pocket. She said slowly, then you can sell yourself to me. You can work and go to school at the same time. Do you want to participate in the competition? But I owe a lot. Song Yao couldn't even look up and didn't dare to look at Bei Yunj. There's 100 million in this card. If you think it's not enough, I'll bring another card tomorrow. Song Yao was speechless. Had she been away from the rich for too long? The pocket money of the rich and powerful nowadays was measured in hundreds of millions. In the past, she only had a few 100,000 yuan in pocket money a month. I can't take this money. Song Yao returned the card to Bei Yunj. I didn't say that you can't pay me back. The winner of the World Championship gets 300,000 yuan, Bei Yunj said. Song Yao asked, you're not participating? Yes. Bei Yunj had no intention of going abroad for the Youth World Championship. But first place is too difficult. Before Song Yao could finish speaking, she felt Bei Yunj's gaze and fell silent. When Lu Yuanxi returned, he saw the crime scene. Cough, cough. Let's drink. Lu Yuanxi immediately eased the atmosphere and made up for the birthday party that he did not follow the procedures properly last time. The next day, Fu Yanbai received a call. What is it? Fu Yanbai's voice was hoarse. There was a female companion on the bed. Young Master Fu, Song Yao, returned the money. Hearing this, Fu Yanbai's eyes turned cold. More than 70 million yuan. How could Song Yao have the money to return it? Soon, Fu Yanbai thought of that person from yesterday. Bei Yunj, after a while, he said coldly, I'll deal with it. Was Song Yao trying to escape? Did she think that she could live a stable life just because someone had returned the money for her? She should live a lowly life for the rest of her life to atone for her sins. Chapter 589. Yu Manran was jealous and felt that his status was not as good as before. Who is this girl? Is she your friend? Bei Yunj looked at Song Yao, who was still doing questions not far away. She was leaning against the corridor and drinking water. Why are you so good to her? Yu Manran was jealous. This little kid has always wanted to return my money. I'm afraid that something will happen to her, so I think it's safe with you. Bei Yunj thought for a moment. If this doesn't work, I can only attack the Fu Corporation first. Wait, Song Yao's name. After regaining his senses, Yu Manran was shocked. The eldest young lady of the Song family? You know her? I know her. She used to be very famous and was good friends with Fu Yanbai's dead ex-girlfriend. Yu Manran said. They're not, Bei Yunj said calmly. I see. Yu Manran seemed to understand. Then I understand. I'll arrange for someone to audition for her as a model. She seems to have been forced to repeat her second year of high school, right? Then I'll arrange for less work. Okay, thank you, Man. In our nation. Huashidu received a call. It was from Fu Yanbai. After Huashidu answered the call, he heard him suppressing his anger, but there was still a hint of anger in his voice. Master Du is so generous to the young lady? You can take out 70 to 80 million yuan so easily? What's the matter? Huashidu's deep and indifferent voice was cold. Bei Yunj casually gave Song Yao 70 to 80 million yuan to pay off her debt. Doesn't Master Du think anything of it? Fu Yanbai could not help but come to look for Huashidu. Huashidu's eyebrows moved. He did not have any impression of the name Song Yao. He said slowly, is that so? Then. Beautiful book bar. Before Fu Yanbai could speak, he heard Huashidu's conversation. Tseng Su, pay this debt for Miss so that there won't be enough next month. The man's low and magnetic voice said lazily. Tseng Su suppressed the surging emotions in his heart. Yes. Wasn't Bei Yunj too much? Pay a debt of 7 to 8,000 yuan. Master Du, aren't you afraid of spoiling her? Fu Yanbai's face was ashen. He had never thought that a man could spoil a woman to this extent. I'll deal with what she's done. As for young Master Fu, take care of yourself. After that, Huashidu hung up. It also caused Fu Yanbai's face to turn pale and green. Master Du, that money is really... Tseng Su hesitated. The man's thin eyelids didn't even lift as he said lightly, yes, I did. Huashidu did not show it either. Bei Yunj did not know where the money came from. He just asked Tseng Su to transfer more money into Bei Yunj's bank account. He knew this little girl's temperament very well. She wouldn't do anything out of line. Also, get someone to keep a close eye on the Fu family. the little girl has a bad temper. When necessary, just take care of her. There's no need to save face for others. Huashidu's meaning was very obvious. If the Fu family provoked Bei Yunj, in order to make Bei Yunj happy, they could deal with the Fu family in any way. Yes, Tsingyu happened to come back from her patrol. I'll get Tsingyu to follow Mississippi, Tseng Su nodded. At Yun University. Bei Yunj had just entered the multimedia hall when she heard an unfamiliar female voice. Song Yao, do you really think that you can participate in the world competition? Chapter 590. Bei Yunj stopped at the door and raised her pretty eyes slowly. She saw a girl in a blue short dress standing in front of Song Yao arrogantly with everyone. Yes, if you have the chance, why don't you? Song Yao's tone was gentle and she had a smile on her face. However, her words made the expressions of the girls present stiffen. They felt like they wanted to flare up, but they didn't know where to vent their anger. This Song Yao used to be a noble person, but she had become like this. Song Yao, I think you're too depraved. Su Xianing narrowed her eyes and laughed coldly. Student Su, if you're done, can you leave now? Song Yao did not plan to fight with Su Xianing. But at this moment, Su Xianing laughed coldly and saw the 2 exercise books in Song Yao's hands. Then, before Song Yao could react, Su Xianing quickly took the exercise books. Su Xianing. Song Yao's eyes immediately turned cold and she stood up. You're finally willing to flare up? Instead, Su Xianing smirked and flipped through the 2 exercise books. So you're doing homework for others, Miss Song. This has nothing to do with you. Song Yao clenched her fists, a cold glint in her eyes. She did not care about being pointed at, but Su Xianing obviously would not miss this opportunity to target Bei Yunj. Apologize to me and admit that it was because of you that Yu Ling got into trouble. Su Xianing looked down at her. Hearing this, even Song Yao's eyes were filled with coldness. However, after hesitating for a moment, her clenched fists slowly relaxed. You know that this class doesn't allow such behavior, right? I heard that the teachers of the ordinary class like you, so nothing might happen to you. What about Bei Yunj? Hearing this, Song Yao's hand loosened completely. She pursed her lips. Su Xianing, suddenly. What do you think will happen to me? A clear and melodious voice rang out. Then, before Su Xianing could turn back to look at her, a slender and fair hand pulled the 2 exercise books away. You. Su Xianing's face twisted. Bei Yunj did not even look at Su Xianing from the corner of her eye. She walked in front of Song Yao and patted her head with the exercise book. She said lazily, What are you thinking about, Tian Tian? You're admitting that you didn't do it? Song Yao was speechless. She was certain that this Tian Tian was definitely the Tian Tian in the idiotic sense. Bei Yunj, I've already caught evidence of Song Yao copying homework for you. You, go ahead, snitch. Bei Yunj sat beside Song Yao and slowly flipped through the exercise book. She had just picked up the pen when she thought for a while and pushed the exercise book to Song Yao. Continue writing. The bullying at the scene was very arrogant. Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj and was silent for a while before she picked up the pen and wrote slowly. During this period of time, Bei Yunj would call her to correct the wrong questions even if she didn't come. Bei Yunj's book was also used by her to review her mistakes. When Su Xianing saw this, her expression changed. You. Oh, why is this student from the advanced class in our class? The lecturer walked in slowly with a teacup. Hearing this, Su Xianing immediately said, Teacher, I'm reporting Bei Yunj and Song Yao. The students in the special class record their usual results. Song Yao and Bei Yunj copied each other's homework and used unfair competition methods. Chapter 591. Hearing this, the lecturer paused in his action of putting down the thermos flask and could not help but look at her. Song Yao and Bei Yunj? A few seconds later. The lecturer glanced at Song Yao before his eyes landed on Bei Yunj. Is what Su Xianing said true? Teacher, actually, before Song Yao could explain, she heard the lecturer say, I didn't ask you to speak, Song Yao. But, Song Yao was about to insist when she was interrupted by Bei Yunj. Teacher, I won't admit to this. Hearing Bei Yunj being so calm, Su Xianing laughed coldly. Everyone saw with their own eyes that Song Yao used your exercise book to do it. Are you still not admitting it? What do you say? The lecturer looked at Bei Yunj and asked. In this situation, Song Yao was so nervous that her palms were sweating. She was afraid that the teacher would really ask Bei Yunj to leave because he didn't like Bei Yunj. How did you know that exercise book was mine? Before Su Xianing could refute, she heard Bei Yunj say with a casual smile, Did you write my name? Dang, Su Xianing was about to respond when her body suddenly froze. She didn't seem to have seen the name on the exercise book just now. Bei Yunj had been in class for a month and she hadn't even written her name on the exercise book? Not only Su Xianing, even the lecturer froze, his expression not too good. Bei Yunj. You've been in class for so long and you didn't even write your name on the exercise book? Teacher, she forgot, Song Yao immediately explained. The people around her were even more anxious than the original owner. Seeing this, Su Xianing and the people around her started to gloat. But in the next moment, the lecturer's expression was dark. Bei Yunj, Professor Do told me that you're very talented, but do you know how talent is erased? Bei Yunj's eyebrows moved. Lingjiu Literature Network. No wonder her results in every assessment period were not ideal, but she would always have one more place in the ranking. If you can't pass this paper in an hour, I don't want to see you in this classroom again. As soon as he finished speaking. When Su Xianing saw the question on the paper, her lips curled into a mocking smile. Hearing this, Song Yao looked at Bei Yunj pitifully, indicating for her to do it well this time. Bei Yunj could not withdraw from the competition in such a dejected manner. Bei Yunj glanced at Song Yao and then at the paper. She was silent for a while. Teacher, this paper is not good. When Su Xianing heard this, the corners of her mouth curled up into a mocking smile. Professor Do's hand-picked student was only a so-so. What kind of extraordinary talent was this? Why? The lecturer looked at her and asked. Song Yao tugged at Bei Yunj's sleeve nervously. More than half of that paper was set by me. Bei Yunj looked up at the lecturer. Lecturer? Song Yao was speechless. After coming back to his senses, the lecturer was a little incoherent. What did you say? Bei Yunj thought for a while and said, It's not very fair to do this test paper. Everyone, damn. This damned person was actually Bei Yunj? The teachers who had come to substitute for the past few days had all said that this paper was very good. But in everyone's eyes, it was too tricky. It was even more suffocating than Huang Qishan's physics paper. In the end, this was set by Bei Yunj. Su Xianing and the rest did not look too good either. In the advanced class, only Shi and Cheng Zihuai had scored 70 to 80 points for this paper. Chapter 592. Actually, before Song Yao took a photo of this paper for Bei Yunj had always thought that Professor Do was testing her. But later, she found out that during the professors' gathering, Professor Do had been made drunk by Si Chengyan. When Si Chengyan saw that someone was rushing for the papers of the special class, he felt guilty and used Professor Do's account to send a test mission to Bei Yunj. Then, half an hour later, Si Chengyan received something from Bei Yunj and silently transferred a copy to the dean. Song Yao suddenly remembered that when she sent this paper to Bei Yunj seemed to have been silent for a long time. So this was her paper. At this moment, the lecturer's lips twitched. He did not know what to do with Bei Yunj. He took a deep breath. We'll talk about this in the future. First, teacher, as the top university in the country, are you going to choose to protect a student? Su Xianing's cold voice sounded. The people around could not help but look at this arrogant girl in front of them. It had to be said. Other than Su Xianing, no one had the guts to speak to the lecturer of Yun University like this. This isn't protecting a student. The lecturer frowned unconsciously, but before he could speak, he heard the voice of the person behind him. Xianing, why are you here? Why are you talking to Teacher Gao? Everyone turned around and saw Professor Wei from the mathematics department. In the past 2 years, Professor Wei's reputation had been even greater than Professor Dou's. Su Xianing also called Professor Wei, but most people knew that Professor Wei was Su Xianing's uncle. It's like this. When I came to the ordinary class to visit a friend, I accidentally found someone doing homework for someone else. But I remember that our final assessment usually takes up a part of the results. Isn't that cheating? Number 1 asked. Hearing this, Professor Wei frowned and glanced at Teacher Gao. Is that so? What Su Xianing said isn't that true, Teacher Gao said, it's just that a student rarely comes, so, if it's not that true, then it should be mostly true. Professor Wei said coldly, in that case, the two of them can leave the special class together. Their existence is indeed unfair to others. Professor Wei, but Song Yao is currently the top student in the ordinary class. Teacher Gao said instinctively. Like you said, it's an ordinary class. Professor Wei sneered and looked at his watch. Alright, stop talking nonsense with me. Today, Yun University will have some important guests. I don't want them to know about the existence of these two people when they visit. After that, Professor Wei glanced at Bei Yunj coldly and was about to leave. Seeing this, Su Xianing also laughed. After Professor Wei left, she looked at Bei Yunj and Song Yao. Her gaze was filled with sarcasm and contempt. Song Yao, a person like you will be pulled down no matter who you cling to. If it were me, I definitely wouldn't be like you and still have the face to speak so confidently after killing someone. Song Yao's eyes moved, her eyes filled with forbearance. In the past 2 to 3 years, everyone thought that she was punished because she had harmed Yu Ling. Everyone tacitly agreed that she had been treated unfairly. Yao Yao, what do you want to eat? Bei Yunj suddenly asked and interrupted Song Yao's attention. I'm fine with anything, Song Yao said. Then let's have a meal first. Chapter 593. Teacher Gao's expression did not look too good either. Bei Yunj, don't go yet. Professor Dou might, Teacher Gao, I'm sorry for troubling you during this period of time. Bei Yunj's eyes curved as she pulled Song Yao out of the classroom. Looking at Bei Yunj's figure, Teacher Gao felt an inexplicable strange emotion. To be honest, although he had little contact with Bei Yunj during this period of time and even felt that this student was unruly and did not do her job properly. However, in terms of details, this student was unruly but well-mannered. Gooper, do you really not want to participate at all? If you can get first place in this competition, it will be a valuable stepping stone for you to enter various research institutes in the future. I don't want to. Bei Yunj said slowly. Song Yao was speechless. What was this person thinking all day long? Stay here first. I have a call. Bei Yunj brought Song Yao to the private room and walked out. In the long corridor, the person on the other end of the call said in surprise, Miss, you're finally willing to contact me. I heard that you're the one who's preparing for the Mitchell Mathematics International Competition. Bei Yunj asked directly. Hearing this, the head of Lee University was stunned. He did not understand why he was asking about such a competition. The head of Lee University probed. Yes, do you have any juniors who want to participate? Bei Yunj continued, yes, can you leave a spot? Of course you can. The head of Lee University agreed readily. Although this competition required professional qualities of the contestants, how could the juniors of the family be bad? Wanshu Building, okay, thank you, Director. Bei Yunj hummed in response. Before she could hang up, the director of the hospital hurriedly said, "Wait. Can you reconsider the matter of our celebrity wall?" "Director, I'm sorry. I don't want my private life to be affected yet." Hearing this, the director's tone was regretful. "Is that so? But you're really outstanding. Actually, our Neely University has always had the intention of recruiting you. Neely University is a top school and has never lacked talents." Pei Yunj smirked lazily and easily gave Director Li a way out. "A talented person like you would be fought over in any country. Speaking of which, if it weren't for Jones, would you have developed in country R?" Head Elderly said with a regretful tone. After all, the treatment they received in our country's Confucian Arts Circle had always been top-notch. There were also many scholars who had immigrated from country A. "I won't." Bei Yunj answered without any hesitation, which stunned Dean Li. "Why?" Obviously, country R could provide more resources. Bei Yunj didn't even lift her eyelids. She had been asked the same question since her last life. "That's my family's teachings." These words made Dean Li suddenly curious about country A. After all, their country's ancestors had never received such education. Meanwhile, Professor Wei was showing two people around the campus. Along the way, he attracted the attention of many people. This was Jasmine and Tich, the students of country R's top rich second-generation heir. "Thank you for your hospitality, Professor Wei. Thank you very much for today." Jasmine smiled at Professor Wei. "You're welcome. I've heard that you're also in Yuncheng." Professor Wei said with a smile, but he was asking for information. Chapter 594. That's indeed the case. Our teacher has always been in Yuncheng and has never left. Jasmine smiled. "Then I wonder, will I have the chance to meet him?" Professor Wei's mind was on the 8,000 questions. But who would have thought that a new scientific researcher in the computing field would actually solve the 8,000 questions in the mathematics world? If possible, he hoped to have a chance to interact with him and become the third person to solve the 8,000 questions. I'm really sorry. Our teacher doesn't like to meet strangers." Jasmine smiled helplessly. Neely University has always wanted to organize a wall of fame for our teacher, but they haven't been able to contact our teacher. At this point, Jasmine and Tich also felt a sense of pride. Back then, when Marcus asked them to follow the new members of the Our Nation's Computing Institute, they were still a little unconvinced. After all, they had always been the young elites in the industry. But later on, it was their teacher's professionalism that taught them how to behave, but our teacher is in the Computing Institute. If you really want to meet him, you can visit Mr. Zhong Shenglin. Tich said. Really? Thank you. A smile immediately appeared on Professor Wei's face and he continued chatting with Jasmine and Tich. However, I didn't expect the two of you to come to Yuncheng personally. Jasmine's eyes were filled with envy. This is our teacher's hometown. We really want to see the place where our teacher grew up. Yes, I also heard that the teacher-student relationship in Country A is very good. Country A is very particular about respecting teachers. We have always wanted to get closer to our teacher. Tich nodded. Hearing this, Professor Wei also began to realize that these two top-rich second-generation heirs did not put on any airs in front of him. It was a sincere respect for him. One had to know that the rich circle of our nation still had some residual feudal thoughts. But in order to get closer to him, these two had personally come to Yuncheng to meet him. Thinking of this, Professor Wei could not help but feel envious. Suddenly, Tich received a call. Seeing the caller ID, Tich's tone immediately weakened. Teacher. Yes, have you eaten? The voice on the other end was slow. Yes, I've eaten. That thesis today, before Tich could finish, he was interrupted. Just give me the thesis this week. How long will you be staying in Yuncheng recently? More than half a month. Tich was a little stunned. He did not quite understand why Bei Yunj asked this question. Then are you free? Tiki answered without hesitation, yes, I do. Between you and Jasmine, who is better at mathematics? Bei Yunj asked. That's about the same. Tich didn't dare to say anything about anyone, especially after Bei Yunj taught him mathematics the last time. I have a friend is participating in the Mitchell Mathematics International Mathematical Olympiad. Hearing Bei Yunj asked, Tich. He nodded repeatedly. Sure, sure. At the same time, Tich. There were people around their teacher who were participating in the Mitchell International Mathematics competition? Wasn't he too down-to-earth? Okay. I'll send someone to look for you later. No, teacher, please take care of yourself. To be. Professor Wei could not help but look at Tich. Is Tich on the phone with someone? After Bei Yunj finished explaining, the two of them hung up the phone. Tich looked at Jasmine again. Chapter 595. Teacher asked us to fetch someone. Hearing this, Jasmine raised an eyebrow. What happened? You'll know later. With that said, Tich turned to look at Professor Wei. Professor Wei, we still have to fetch someone. Why don't you leave first? However, a dark glint flashed in Professor Wei's eyes as he smiled. It's all right. I'm familiar with Yun Cheng. If that person can't find you, I can bring you there. If this person was a friend of, then he would have a better chance of coming into contact with her. At this moment, Tich and Jasmine looked at each other and did not say anything. 10 minutes later, they suddenly saw a girl about the same age as their teacher. She seemed to be looking for someone. Jasmine's eyebrows moved. He was about to go forward when Professor Wei saw Song Yao, who was wandering around Yun University. Didn't I ask you to go out? Why are you still here? Professor Wei's tone was cold and impatient. Even his anger was rising. These students nowadays, did they all think that they were so capable? Who dared to accept the students he chased away? Professor Wei, I'm here to look for someone. Song Yao glanced at Professor Wei, but her eyes were fixed on the brown-haired Tich and the blonde-haired and blue-eyed Jasmine. Looking for someone at Yun University? Do you think that after attending classes at Yun University, you can, do you know Yunj? Song Yao asked tentatively. These two people's appearances matched Yunj's description very well. Yes. Tich immediately nodded, his eyes shining. You're Bei Yunj's friend? Beside him, Jasmine could not help but look at Tich in shock. This brother was getting bolder. He even dared to call his teacher's name so directly. Yes, are you one too? Song Yao nodded. Her gentle aura was likable. Yes. Tich remembered what Bei Yunj had told him and could only nod. Hearing this, Jasmine almost thought that Tich was crazy. He even dared to call himself teacher's friend. However, in the next second, Jasmine suddenly regained his senses. Tich might have said this because of his teacher's instructions over the phone just now. Nice to meet you. I'm Song Yao. Yunja's friend. Song Yao smiled. Professor Wei, who was watching this scene, froze. Why was the person Tich and the rest were waiting for Song Yao? Didn't that call just now come from her? However, both of them had brought up Bei Yunj's name. Professor Wei remembered Bei Yunj. She was a student that Professor Do had his eyes on, but compared to talented players like Tich and Jasmine, her talent and ability were not worth mentioning. How could he be Tich's friend? Just as Professor Wei was denying it, Tich hurriedly took the exercise book for Song Yao and said with a smile, Yunj said that she wanted me to teach you mathematics. You are going to participate in the Mitchell math competition, right? Although my mathematics isn't as good as Yunj's, I've won first place in the Mitchell competition in the past. I hope you won't despise us. Song Yao was speechless. What was this person talking about? She wasn't as good as Yunj in mathematics, but she had won first place in the Mitchell competition? Ah, the Mitchell competition. It's not difficult. I've won first place before. Jasmine, who was beside her, interrupted and comforted her. Don't be nervous. It's just a small competition. Chapter 596. Song Yao could not help asking, "What school are you from?" "I'm a postgraduate student from the computing department of Neely University," Tich said. "Me too. I'm in the same department as him. We're both interns at the Institute of Computing Technology in our nation." Jasmine added, "I'm an intern. Is it the one who solved the 8 questions?" Song Yao felt her legs go weak and she suspected that she was dreaming. Was the big boss's student taking her under his wing? Hearing their identities, Song Yao felt that it was a waste of their talent to take her under their wing. Seeing this, Jasmine understood. Indeed, the teacher's friend did not know the teacher's identity. "Yes," Jasmine said with a gentle smile, "so you don't have to worry. We'll teach you diligently during this period." Song Yao was speechless. Isn't this too troublesome? She really did not know what Master Pei was doing. At first, she thought that Bei Yunj had found a student from Yun University to teach her. Who would have thought that it would be a postgraduate student from Neely University? Furthermore, this was his personal student. "No trouble, no trouble. We're very happy to do it," Tich said hurriedly. What a joke. It was the first time their teacher had instructed them to do something. If they couldn't do it well, wouldn't they seem too useless? Finally, Professor Wei could not help but speak, his expression still not too good. "Isn't the person you want to take over someone you know?" Hearing this, Song Yao looked at Professor Wei in confusion. How could she know a god of this level? "Yes, it's someone I know. I'm not too sure either." Tich said vaguely, "Maybe someone asked our teacher for help." When Professor Wei heard this, his expression turned even uglier. He was looking for an opportunity to contact her through his student. That Bei Yunj actually had the ability to get in touch with this person and get his student to teach Song Yao? But does this student have a spot to participate in the Mitchell competition? Professor Wei said with a fake smile. He knew very well that if Jasmine and Tich took Song Yao, Su Xianing's chances of getting first place would be even lower. Hearing this, Tich turned around in confusion. Huh? Isn't Song Yao an individual international contestant? What? Professor Wei's expression changed completely. For a long time, the requirements for individual international contestants were very high. They needed qualified scientific researchers to recommend them. Even he didn't have the qualifications to be a recommender. He had just dismissed Song Yao not long ago. How did she become an individual international player? "Miss Song, do you want to check it out?" At this time, they should have already registered, Tich said. Hearing this, Song Yao was also inexplicably nervous and took out her phone to check. Not long after entering the website address. Then, her personal information appeared. Name, Song Yao. Sex, female. Player type, individual international player recommended by. Seeing the last line, Tich and Jasmine's eyes were filled with envy. Even their teacher hadn't let them walk through such a special passage. An individual international player. One could directly advance to the next round of the preliminaries. This meant that as long as Song Yao passed the 4th round, she would at least be in the top 10. One had to know that in the past few years, almost no one had been able to pass the requirements of an individual international player. In this year, Song Yao was probably the only international player. All of a sudden, Professor Wei's expression was ugly and he regretted it even more. He had actually chased Song Yao and Bei Yunj away. Chapter 597. If he hadn't chased them away, would he have been able to get to know them through Bei Yunj? At this thought, Professor Wei's heart turned cold. He could not help turning to look at Song Yao, his voice stiff and slow. "Student Song, is Bei Yunj also an individual international contestant? She's not participating. At first, Song Yao did not understand why Bai Yunj was not interested in this competition. However, at this moment, when Song Yao heard what Tich had said and the recommender displayed on her phone screen, she seemed to understand why Bai Yunj was not interested in the competition. Song Yao took a deep breath and stared at the recommender displayed on the screen. It was really, her recommender was actually. Suddenly, Song Yao really wanted to send a message to Bai Yunj to ask if she could get her an autograph. This was a new scientific research big boss. At this moment, Professor Wei's expression darkened even more. It was over. He had really offended Bai Yunj. At the Computing Institute, Bai Yunj glanced at the phone beside her that was flashing with notifications. She did not plan to look at the message. She didn't need to guess to know that this was from Song Yao. Until 6 in the afternoon. When Bai Yunj was about to go back, she called Song Yao and walked out. However, she did not expect to see Fu Yanbai standing at the door of the car the moment she went out. It was obvious that he was waiting for someone. Looking at Fu Yanbai's gaze, Bai Yunj furrowed her eyebrows quietly. She vaguely felt that this person might be her. Yao Yao, I'll hang up first. With that said, Bai Yunj hung up. New World. When Fu Yanbai heard this name, he frowned unconsciously and a trace of coldness flashed past his eyes. Miss Pei, I have to remind you that that woman is not a good person. She looks gentle, but she has a vicious heart. Bai Yunj did not even look at him and planned to leave. Seeing this, Fu Yanbai immediately chased after her and handed the bouquet to Bai Yunj. He smirked. Don't you like these flowers? I've heard that no woman doesn't like flowers. The woman you like is called Yu Ling, right? Bai Yunja's words made Fu Yanbai pause. Then, he calmly admitted, yes. She's a very bright and kind person. Although she's not as good-looking as you and doesn't have your family background, her personality and yours. Young Master Fu, if it were me, the one who fell into the sea back then wouldn't have been me. It would have been you. Bai Yunja's slow words interrupted Fu Yanbai. Next. He laughed, yes, you're even more daring than Ling Er. Was it because of Huashidu? He does care a lot about you. But Miss Pei, it's not easy to enter the Hua family. As soon as he finished speaking. Before Bai Yunj could say anything, a woman's voice suddenly rang out. Young Master Fu, are you trying to take advantage of Master Du? Hearing this, Bai Yunj turned to look at the woman who was walking over. He was dressed in professional attire and looked very capable. His eyebrows seemed to resemble Tseng Su's. Miss Pei, my name is Tseng Yu. I just came back from K country 2 days ago. I'll be in charge of your daily life in the future. When Tseng Yu smiled, there were 2 little dimples on her face, which made her look more childish. Master Du is even willing to let Miss Pei use you? Fu Yanbai's words were vague. He was deliberately making Bai Yunj think that there might be something between Tseng Yu and Huashidu. It's my honor to be able to stay by Miss Pei's side. Master Du thinks highly of me. Chapter 598. With that said, Tseng Yu suddenly changed the topic and asked with a smile, I remember that young Master Fu's last relationship was rumored to be the talk of the town. Why am I here today? Master Du even brought you here. Are you that worried? Fu Yanbai asked without a smile in his eyes. In Fu Yanbai's opinion, Tseng Yu was more difficult to deal with than Tseng Su. After all, she was a woman and her words were aggressive. Young Master Fu, you must be joking. Tseng Yu's tone was indifferent and the smile in her eyes faded a little. Although Miss is young, it doesn't mean that she can't differentiate between good and bad. My job is just to solve unnecessary problems for Mississippi. With that said, Tseng Yu looked at Bai Yunj. Miss Pei, can we go back now? Yes. Bai Yunj also glanced at Tseng Yu and followed her back to the car. When Fu Yanbai saw this scene, his face turned gloomy. In the car. Miss Pei, can I take you home? Tseng Yu asked. Okay, thank you. Bei Yunj responded and looked at Tseng Yu. Are you Assistant Tseng's sister? Yes. Tseng Yu smiled. I heard Tseng Su mention Mississippi Miss is more beautiful than I imagined. However, your position in the Computing Institute is. She remembered that her brother's original words were, Miss Pei was good-looking, but she was unruly and her grades were not good. But thinking about Miss Pei's face and family background, it was already fortunate that she was not spoiled to the point of breaking the law. I'm here to take a look. Bei Yunj smiled. Dream Chinese. When Tseng Yu heard this, she felt that something was wrong. She could visit the Computing Institute at will now? She remembered that this Computing Institute could only be entered by swiping a card. Tseng Yu couldn't help but sigh. I've only been away from Yuncheng for a year. Has there been such a big change? I remember that when I just graduated, I also sent my resume to the Computing Institute, but they didn't even let me in. Bei Yunj. Looking at Tseng Yu's capable image, Bei Yunj didn't expect her to be a chatterbox. After Tseng Yu told her everything about the company, Bei Yunj suddenly interrupted her. Have you been to Country R? Tseng Yu was stunned for a moment, but when she looked at Bei Yunj's eyes through the rearview mirror, she seemed to understand something. She smiled meaningfully and said, usually, when Master Du goes on a business trip, he only brings my brother along. However, I heard from my brother that the women in Country R are much more straightforward than those in Country A. Bei Yunj glanced at Tseng Yu. Not reserved? Yes, my brother has a market in Neely and was almost kissed by someone, let alone Master Du. Tseng Yu's tone was full of disdain for her brother. She chuckled. I don't know what's wrong with Tseng Su. He bragged about how he was almost forced to kiss me for 3 years. Bei Yunj, since when did Country R become so unrestrained? Miss Pei, you can call Master Du more often when you're free. Tseng Yu said intentionally or unintentionally as she secretly looked at Bei Yunj's expression. Bei Yunj responded indifferently, but no one knew what she was thinking. After Bei Yunj got out of the car, Tseng Yu sent Tseng Su a message. Tseng Yu, I'll definitely win your 10,000 yuan. Miss Pei will definitely call Master Du today. Tseng Su? Tseng Su, haha, Miss Pei has been quarreling with Master Du recently. What are you thinking about? Call him? Chapter 599. Tseng Su, after returning to the bedroom, Bei Yunj took a shower as usual and read some documents. However, an hour later, Bei Yunj unknowingly picked up her phone and checked the records of Washidu's messages to her. Bei Yunj, why were they all sent in the morning and afternoon? Was he so busy at night? With this thought in mind, Bei Yunj suddenly remembered Tseng Yu's words. Even Assistant Tseng was so lucky in love. Moreover, this man had always been very attractive. Thinking of this, Bei Yunj's eyes moved. Just as she was about to send a message to Washidu, she suddenly stopped. A moment later, Bei Yunj made a call. After about a minute or two, the other party picked up the call. Yun, what's wrong? The man's low and magnetic voice sounded even more textured through the current, teasing her eardrums. Brother, are you very busy? The man was silent for a moment. Bei Yunj heard him chuckle again. He said, I'm not too busy. Bei Yunj heard the man's deep and magnetic laughter. For some reason, her throat felt dry and she licked the corner of her lips. Suddenly, Bei Yunj said without thinking, Brother, can you video call me now? The other party seemed to be silent for a moment. His tone was nonchalant. Now? Can't I do it now? When the man heard this, he suddenly lowered his voice and chuckled. Yun. Then, Bei Yunj heard him say slowly, Brother, any time is fine. Bei Yunj, this D*MN man was at it again. Give me 2 minutes, then I'll video call you, okay? Bei Yunj suddenly smirked and said with a smile, Older brother can do it now, right? The little girl's meaning was obvious. He had to make a video call to her right now. His Adam's apple bobbed as he chuckled. Yes, Yun is right. Although Hoshidu did not understand the little girl's thoughts, he could clearly feel that his child was awkward. Not long after, Hoshidu turned on his computer and sent Bei Yunj a video call invitation. As expected, Bei Yunj quickly agreed to the invitation. However, after the call was connected, the atmosphere in the air froze for a long time. Bei Yunj saw that the man's short hair was wet, and his upper body was naked. He seemed to have just changed into a pair of pants, and his firm and sexy 8-pack abs were faintly visible. It was simply too terrible. Bei Yunj, so, did Hoshidu say that he wanted to wait for 2 minutes because he wanted to go and get dressed? The silence did not last long. She said, "Brother, dry your hair." The man replied, "Yes." The atmosphere was still awkward. The girl's ears gradually turned a faint shade of red. The man's eyes were fixed on her, and he couldn't hide the smile in the depths of his eyes. Yun, can Big Brother go and put on some clothes? All right. Hence, Bei Yunj saw with her own eyes that Hoshidu took out a black shirt and slowly changed his clothes not far away. The man's lazy yet clean temperament, as well as his well-built waist, simply made people blush and their hearts beat faster. Bei Yunj, couldn't he avoid the camera? Hoshidu changed his clothes and returned. He glanced at the little girl wearing silver-rimmed glasses and smiled again. Yun looks good in glasses too. Bei Yunj accepted the compliment with a clear conscience and asked, "When will Big Brother be back?" "In another week." The emotions in Hoshidu's eyes flickered, and his magnetic voice was filled with a smile. "Did you miss me?" Chapter 600. Okay. Bei Yunj responded and could not help but look at the man's impeccable face. She had to admit that every time she saw the man's face, the anger that had just risen in her would disappear completely. Seeing Bei Yunj admit it so straightforwardly, Hoshidu's Adam's apple bobbed unconsciously. His gaze darkened and his laughter was a little hoarse. Sometimes, the recklessness and straightforwardness of a young man were the most moving. Suddenly, Bei Yunj saw the man's thin lips curl up. His magnetic voice sounded light and lazy, not hiding the gentleness that made her blush and her heart race. "Child, I miss you too." At this moment, Bei Yunja's hand that was holding the pen froze. Her heart was beating wildly. There was a knock on the door. "I'll hang up first." After Bei Yunj regained her senses, she immediately wanted to hang up the video call. Even her mind was in a mess. The lethality of this sentence was simply too great. However, suddenly, she saw Hoshidu open the door and heard the woman's voice. "Mr. Hua, I don't think there's hot water in my bathroom. Can you help me take a look?" Although it was a foreign language, Bei Yunj understood the woman's intentions very well. However, the man's eyes darkened and he smiled. "No need. I happen to have a favor for you." With that said, Bei Yunj did not quite understand what he meant at first. Hoshidu's voice was cold and magnetic. It was obvious that he was not easy to seduce. However, the woman did not want to give up. Her coquettish and teasing voice made one's heart itch. "Then can I take a shower here, Mr. Hua?" At this moment, in a hotel, if there was a problem with the hotel facilities, she would not look for the hotel management but a stranger for help. In the next moment, the woman was probably afraid that Hoshidu would not believe her, so she said pitifully, "I have no choice. As a female celebrity, if I appear in front of a stranger like this and get photographed, miss, I don't have time to fix the water heater in your bathroom." Instantly, the smile on the blonde woman's face froze. She was even more suspicious. Where did this woman come from? Not long after, she suddenly noticed the video on the computer screen. Hoshidu did not speak. He only turned around and walked into the inner room. Seeing this, the blonde woman was overjoyed. But the next moment, she heard the man say lazily, "Baby, someone wants to take a bath here. Do you think it's okay?" Bei Yunj looked at the woman who had walked in without permission. She lazily rested her chin on her hand and did not hide her purpose. She smiled and said, "I'm sorry, sister. I'm very possessive. I don't intend to lend you anything, whether it's things or people." The woman's expression changed. Of course, she understood what Bei Yunj meant. She glanced at Hoshidu, still a little indignant. The girl's appearance was exceedingly beautiful, and her brilliance was unparalleled. No. Then, she watched the girl in the video take off her silver-rimmed glasses. Her eyes looked like they were smiling, but there was a natural laziness to them. Bei Yunj also realized that Hoshidu was looking at her. She immediately found an excuse and hung up the phone. Miss Pei actually had a video call with Master Du. After they left. But not long after, Tseng Su came to knock on the door and happily invited this female celebrity away. Before this, Tseng Su saw Bei Yunj on the phone with Hoshidu and widened his eyes in disbelief. However, not long after, Hoshidu's words suddenly appeared in Bei Yunj's mind. P.S. 2 chapters will be added tomorrow morning. Babies, remember to vote. The top 15 of the monthly votes list will be added with 4 chapters in the morning. Chapter 601. Baby, someone wants to bathe at my place. Do you think it's okay? Instantly. Bei Yunj looked up at the report she was writing. She did not know when, but half of the report was written with Hoshidu. Had she been bewitched by that D*MN man? Bei Yunj immediately deleted most of the Hoshidu and continued writing the report at hand. The next day, Bei Yunj received a call. Old Master was suddenly unwell and asked her to watch the music concert with Shang Yan. Old Master Qin was worried about Shang Yan going alone. "Alright, Old Master." Bei Yunj slowly walked downstairs and said leisurely, "You're so good to him. I almost suspected that he was your biological grandson." "What nonsense are you talking about again?" Old Master Qin scolded jokingly, but it was not difficult to hear his indulgence towards the younger generation. "Alright, let's not talk about it anymore. I'll go pick him up now." Bei Yunj looked at her watch, hung up the phone, and got into the car to go to the hospital. She realized that Shang Yan had already changed his clothes. He was wearing a simple navy blue t-shirt and trousers, making him look even more gentle and elegant. If this person could stand up, he would probably be the most popular person in the world. "The nurse came to help me change just now," Shang Yan explained. Bei Yunj nodded and pushed Shang Yan out of the hospital. Along the way, Shang Yan smiled gently. "Did Old Master ask you to accompany me?" "Yes, he's worried about you," Bei Yunj said casually. She did not feel unhappy that she had been sent on a mission. "Did I delay you? Old Master's matters are the most important." Hearing Bei Yunj's words, Shang Yan could not help but smile. Indeed. Although this girl did not look easy to get along with, she was a filial girl. Cool record literature. Along the way, Shang Yan told Bei Yunj a lot about the current music trends. He did not care if Bei Yunj was listening. Until they arrived at the concert venue. Shang Yan took out 2 tickets and was invited in. "The tickets this time don't seem to be very good." Shang Yan handed one to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj took a look and saw that it was a VIP seat. However, for this concert, there were other classes of seats above the ordinary VIP. "Do you want another seat?" Bei Yunj remembered that Du Xiao had said that 90% of large-scale concerts were attended by the International Musicians Association. It was not difficult to get a ticket internally. "Forget it, this is not bad either." Shang Yan did not plan on telling Bei Yunj that it was very difficult to get the tickets this time. The price outside had already risen to more than 100,000 yuan for an ordinary ticket. Bei Yunj nodded and didn't say anything else. There's still half an hour before the concert. Let's go eat something first, Shang Yan said. There was a self-service R-style afternoon tea outside, and the desserts were exquisite and beautiful. Subsequently, it was only when Bei Yunj was picking out snacks by the side that Shang Yan saw Nancy's message. Shang Yan, I'm not only doing this for my successor, but also for you. Back then, you were also a prodigy in everyone's eyes. Are you going to give up on yourself just like that? Shang Yan did not reply and only looked at the ticket in his hand. His lips curled into a faint self-deprecating smile. What was there to be proud of about a prodigy who had fallen into a quagmire? In the past, he would receive tickets to this concert every year, but they were always platinum seats. This year, for some reason, it had become an ordinary VIP ticket. The Shang Yan of the past no longer exists. Shang Yan lowered his eyes and muttered to himself in a hoarse voice. His gentle eyes were filled with suppressed restlessness and decadence. P.S. It's coming. Be good and stay in the top 15 monthly votes. Don't let old Sue drop out halfway through his update. Chapter 602. All of a sudden, a clear voice sounded. The current Shang Yan is still Shang Yan. Shang Yan looked up and saw Bei Yunj, who was biting the cake fork, looking at him. She took the fork down and fiddled with the cake in her hand. Shang Yan. It's hard, but get through it. Hearing this, Shang Yan looked at Bei Yunj in front of him. His hand holding the phone inexplicably heated up. Not long after, Bei Yunj and Shang Yan were about to return to the concert. They were almost bumped into by someone who suddenly ran over. Bei Yunj frowned unconsciously. There was a faint coldness in her eyes. Before she looked up, she saw the gorgeously dressed woman in front of her turn her head and sneer at the foreign man who was rushing over. Am I causing trouble for you? The woman pointed at Bei Yunj and questioned the man. This sister should be your type, right? You are rich and powerful. Others may be willing to follow you, but I will never. Her tone was filled with loftiness and arrogance. This scene of expressing her arrogance as if there was no one else around made Shang Yan and Bei Yunj's eyes cold. Bei Yunj savored the woman's words and licked her red lips. She smiled carelessly and said, "Why do I feel unhappy when I hear this?" With that said, the arrogant woman froze for a moment. It was probably the first time she had met someone who said that. She turned her head and saw Bei Yunj's face clearly. Her expression changed immediately. She had always been proud of her looks. Back then, many socialites in Yuncheng had lost to her face. Even the eldest daughter of the Song family, who had been praised by everyone, was at most on par with her. But the girl in front of her was the same as her. They were both gorgeous. But compared to this girl, she, who used to brag about her charm, was inexplicably tacky. Even if this girl didn't speak, she had an innate elegance and self-restraint. Ling, the foreign man, immediately stepped forward, grabbed the woman's hand and apologized to Bei Yunj. I'm very sorry. My friend was reckless and made a fool of himself. The foreign man spoke the language of country A. It seemed that the woman beside him did not understand the language of country R. Tell your friend to be more sensible. Bei Yunj glanced at the woman slowly. The corners of her lips curled up as she said with a lazy smile, if you really have such a backbone, you should take off the string of jewelry around your neck, throw it to the ground, and leave immediately. As soon as he finished speaking, the woman's body froze. She felt a burning pain on her face, and anger rose in her chest. This was the first time she had been humiliated in public. At this thought, she bit her lip and her gaze finally landed on Shang Yan. This man, he was even better looking than Fu Yanbai, but it was a pity that he was a lame man. The regret in the woman's eyes dissipated, and then a great sense of satisfaction rose. She looked at Bei Yunj and smiled. I'm sorry, my friend and I were just throwing a tantrum. I wonder who this is, Mrs. Boyfriend? What a pity. I think this gentleman must have been a proud son of heaven in the past. Hearing this, Shang Yan's eyes did not waver because he had heard such words many times. But then, just as Shang Yan was about to explain for Bei Yunj, suddenly, she chuckled. She said leisurely, "Why should a proud son of heaven be afraid of being at the end of the road?" In an instant, Shang Yan's long eyelashes fluttered violently as he subconsciously looked up at the girl in front of him. Chapter 603. Bei Yunj smirked and patted the hem of her skirt lazily. "Also, this is my friend." With that said, Bei Yunj left with Shang Yan, leaving the young woman standing there with an ugly expression. This girl had a natural aura that she couldn't imitate no matter how hard she tried. The woman bit her lip and turned to look at the foreign man. Seeing that he was also looking at Bei Yunj's back in amazement, a flame of jealousy rose in her heart. "That person, do you like her?" Yu Ling could not help but ask. Hearing this, the man wanted to nod, but in the end, he could only shake his head. Seeing this, Yu Ling finally felt better in her heart. The man's gaze was still fixed on the place where Bei Yunj had just left. That girl was not someone he could covet at first glance. As Yu Ling walked on the road with this foreign man, she still felt annoyed for no reason. It had to be said that compared to this foreign man, Fu Yanbai was more popular with her. Thinking of this, Yu Ling's desire to return to Yun City grew even stronger. Especially after being stimulated by the strange girl just now, she wanted to return to Yun City and let that girl know what kind of existence she was in Yun City back then. Yu Ling's eyes darkened and she found her seat according to the admission ticket. But what she did not expect was, looking back, she found that Bei Yunj and that man were only in the ordinary VIP seats. She was a little surprised and felt a sense of superiority in her heart. At first, she thought that the two of them would be in the first 10 rows no matter what. She did not expect them to be sitting in the 15th row. At the end of the VIP seats, Yu Ling retracted her gaze and sat back in her seat with a smile on her face as she watched the grand music concert. Every day, when they came out, Yu Ling held the foreign man's hand and smiled. Today's concert was really good. Every year, our nation has an International Musicians Association concert, and the last ones are all members of the International Musicians Association. Only the top upper class of each country can participate in that concert. Hearing the foreign man say this, Yu Ling's eyes were filled with yearning. She unconsciously pinched the man's sleeve. "Then can you participate?" Yu Ling could not help but ask. The foreign man shook his head. "I'm not qualified yet. But the person in charge of my group participated last year." Hearing this, Yu Ling was even more disappointed. If it were Fu Yanbai, he would definitely take her to see it, right? Seeing that Yu Ling was unhappy, the foreign man comforted her. "However, my boss will be staying in Yun City for a long time this year. Maybe I can ask him for one." After all, he had been with his boss for so many years. He still had a chance to get a concert ticket. However, Yu Ling just smiled and said, "Forget it, I'm just very interested in music. I don't want you to do something difficult for me." After saying that, Yu Ling hid the indignation in her eyes. If it was Fu Yanbai, with his status as the young master of the Fu family, why would he need to grovel and beg others for votes? Thinking of this, Yu Ling took a deep breath. She looked up and happened to see Bei Yunj and Shang Yan. "Miss!" Yu Ling shouted and quickly walked in front of Bei Yunj. "What's the matter?" Bei Yunj glanced at this woman. Her impatience was clearly displayed on her face. The foreign man tugged on Yu Ling's sleeve when he saw her half-smiling expression. It was obvious that this young lady did not like them. However, Yu Ling smiled and said, "We've met so many times. Don't you think it's fate?" Chapter 604. Hearing this, Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched. She looked at Yu Ling for a while. "This is the first time I've met someone who doesn't know how to appreciate favors like you." Instantly, the atmosphere was silent and awkward. Yu Ling was speechless. The foreign man was speechless. Shang Yan suppressed his laughter, his gentle eyes especially making people unable to look away. He could tell that Bai Yunj was not mocking Yu Ling on purpose. She really felt that way. This made Yu Ling not know how to reply for a moment. "Miss, are you very prejudiced against me?" Yu Ling forced out a smile. "Not really. I don't like others to be an eyesore in front of me." Bai Yunj glanced at her and asked Shang Yan, "Are you leaving?" Seeing this, Yu Ling was still blocking Bai Yunj, not wanting her to leave with a smile on her face. "Miss, actually, I want to be friends with you." Bai Yunj licked the corners of her lips and laughed, her gaze turning cold. "Miss, do you lack friends so much?" Seeing that Bai Yunj could barely suppress her coldness, Yu Ling's suitor hurried forward and said, "Miss, don't be angry. I think Yu Ling might just want to treat you to a meal." With that said, that suitor even turned around and begged Shang Yan for help with his eyes. Hearing this, Yu Ling seemed to have thought of something as a dark look flashed past her eyes. She started to show weakness. "Yes, miss, I don't have any ill intentions." With that said, Yu Ling bit her lip and looked at Shang Yan. Bai Yunj raised an eyebrow. "Shang Yan, then, before Bai Yunj could say anything, Shang Yan said, "Yunj, do you have time? If you do, we can go for a meal together." Bai Yunj glanced at Shang Yan. She was not interested in such activities. Besides, she remembered that the old master said that this person did not like places for gatherings. "Are you sure? Let's go. I'm hungry too." Shang Yan's eyes were like stars as his thin red lips curled up slightly. She had a gentle temperament, but it always made people feel shocked. Yu Ling and the others were preparing to attend a party nearby, which wasn't too far away. On the road, Shang Yan unlocked his phone and saw countless messages from Nancy. He didn't scroll up, but he roughly saw a few lines of content. "You went to the concert on Shimei Road? My heir seems to have gone too. She didn't come to the computing institute today, I'm so lonely. Speaking of which, she doesn't talk to me when she's around. Although our Gu-er is only a high school student, she's really quite pretty. I guarantee that she'll be the prettiest one at the concert." Gu-er? Shang Yan's brows twitched as he looked at Bai Yunj. "Did you just call me?" Bai Yunj turned around and asked. Shang Yan looked at her without saying anything. Bai Yunj thought that she had heard it wrong, so she didn't pay much attention to it. At this moment, Shang Yan was silent for a moment before sending Nancy a message. "SY, Bai Yunj?" A few seconds later. "Nancy. Nancy, how do you know Gu-er's full name?" Seeing this message, Shang Yan's heart skipped a beat as his eyes darkened. How could the air that Nancy had her eyes on be Bai Yunj? At this thought, Shang Yan suddenly thought of what old Master Qin had said to himself in the hospital. "My Gu doesn't know anything. She's only good-looking and easily provokes bad guys. What will happen if I pass away?" Shang Yan was speechless. So, his granddaughter who didn't know anything was. "P.S. I can't tell your capabilities usually. So many people are watching the update. Old Sue, go prepare to update. There are still 6 updates left. I'll leave the monthly votes ranking to you guys. If you don't fall off the rankings, keep updating." Chapter 605. It took Shang Yan a long time to mentally prepare himself. Previously, he was already surprised enough when he heard Nance say that the high school student he had his eyes on was. Even though he had graduated from Neely University and had seen countless geniuses, her talent was the most unimaginable to him. Now, what shocked him even more was that it was actually Bai Yunj. An elder young miss who looked like she had a bad temper. Even her grandfather had always thought that his granddaughter didn't know anything. Shang Yan looked at the figure in front of him. Before long, he replied to Nance. "Sy, I agree to the matter you asked me to consider. I'll return to our nation after some time." At this moment, Nance, who was at the computing institute, suddenly saw Shang Yan's message and was jolted awake. What was going on? Why did such a difficult person like Shang Yan suddenly agree? Just as Nance was feeling confused, Bai Yunj had already entered the banquet venue. She realized it later. Bai Yunj also sensed that something was wrong. She felt that the name Yuling sounded a little familiar. Soon, Bai Yunj suddenly remembered. Yuling, Fu Yanbai's sweetheart? Was she not dead? Or did she recognize the wrong person? "Yunj, what are you thinking about?" Shang Yan had arrived beside her at some point in time. "Nothing. I just think that woman's name sounds a little familiar," Bai Yunj said slowly. Hearing this, Shang Yan smirked. Maybe they really know each other. "I heard from George that Miss Yu used to be from Yuncheng. 2 to 3 years ago, he saved her from the shore." Hearing Shang Yan say this, Bai Yunj was almost certain that this Yuling was the Yuling she knew. Looking at Bai Yunj's expression, Shang Yan roughly knew that Bai Yunj was really related to this Yuling. "Did she have any unhappiness with you?" Shang Yan asked. "No." Bai Yunj's lips curled up. "She did have some unhappiness with my Tian Tian." The banquet was held by the riverbank, which was paved with solid wood. The lights and moonlight reflected on the sparkling ripples. Behind the green trees were white villas. Wherever his gaze landed, it was like a painting. "You are Mr. Ji, aren't you?" Yuling's voice sounded. At this moment, Ji Yiqing turned around and saw a woman in a wine-red dress with scales and spaghetti straps. She was extremely charming. If it was in the past, Ji Yiqing might have been attracted as well. Unfortunately, he happened to see Bai Yunj in a gown at Yuther residence that time. The girl had black hair and snow-white skin. Her excessively beautiful eyes carried a faint smile without any warmth. That was the first time Ji Yiqing had a strong sense of why the demon concubine could turn all living beings upside down. "Miss Yu, you've come." Ji Yiqing nodded and said with a smile, "Last month, I was very grateful that Miss Yu was willing to accept the temporary blood donation. Otherwise, my sister might not have been able to keep her life." Yuling suppressed the surprise in her eyes. She didn't expect the younger brother of the noble lady she saved to be so decent. Then, she smiled and said, "It's just a blood donation. After all, it's 2 lives. I heard that Miss Yu also faints at blood. You're really kind." Ji Yiqing curled his lips and said, "By the way, is that gentleman Miss Yu's boyfriend?" "No." Yuling immediately denied it. Seeing Ji Yiqing's stunned expression, Yuling hurriedly lowered her head and gently tucked her long hair behind her ear. "I don't have a boyfriend." Chapter 606. Ji Yiqing looked at Yuling in front of him and felt that it was a little strange, but he did not know what was strange. He could only nod. Then, he remembered his sister's intentions and handed a gift box to Yuling. Yuling was flattered. "Mr. Ji, what are you doing? My sister asked me to give this to you. She's in confinement now and can't express her gratitude to you in person. So she asked me to bring it to you." Who knew? Hearing this, Yuling's expression suddenly did not look too good. "Mr. Ji, with your sister's situation, if it was someone else, would have helped them too. I really don't need your thank you gift." Ji Yiqing raised his eyebrows and laughed carelessly. "Miss Yu, did you misunderstand something? I appreciate Miss Ji's kindness. Mr. Ji inviting me to the banquet today is already considered a thank you gift for me." Yuling insisted. Hearing this, it was Ji Yiqing's first time encountering such a situation. "If Miss Ji really wants to express her gratitude, why don't you treat me to a meal when she's free?" Yuling said with a smile, a dark look flashing past her eyes. Back then, She wanted to see the people of the high society through Song Yao. Unfortunately, Song Yao had never been friendly to her. Alright, then I'll deal with this thank you gift separately. Ji Yiqing nodded and did not forget to say with a smile, if Miss Yu needs any help in the future, you can look for me too. Hearing this, Yu Ling's heart beat faster and her cheeks flushed slightly. What's Mr. Ji's occupation? Don't misunderstand, I just feel that Mr. Ji's aura is very different. Ji Yiqing said, soldiers. My family has been in the army for generations, but because my mother's family is in business and she's the only daughter, she also has a business. That's very impressive. Yu Ling could not help praising, I'm very envious of Mr. Ji for having such a good living environment. As for me, I don't even know what to do if I want to return to Yuncheng. You want to return to Yuncheng? Ji Yiqing looked at her. Bean Bookstore. Yu Ling bit her lip, as if she found it difficult to say what she was going to say next. I used to have a very crazy boyfriend. I'm afraid that he'll find me. How about this? If Miss Yu really wants to go back, I can help you. Just as Ji Yiqing was halfway through speaking, he glanced around from the corner of his eye and happened to see a familiar person. When Yu Ling saw that Ji Yiqing had suddenly stopped speaking halfway, she subconsciously looked back. But to her surprise, the man was looking at Bei Yunj in the middle of their conversation. Yu Ling's expression changed. She forced a smile and deliberately asked, does Mr. Ji know that young lady? I met that lady on the road today. The man in the wheelchair next to her might be her boyfriend? He's not. After Ji Yiqing finished speaking, he walked towards Bei Yunj without waiting for Yu Ling to continue speaking. This almost caused Yu Ling's face to darken. Ling, does Mr. Ji know that young lady? I don't know. Yu Ling's face was cold as she followed him and ignored George. At this time, Bei Yunj heard a familiar voice. Why is Miss Pei here? Bei Yunj turned around and saw Ji Yiqing. Let's eat, she said. Ji Yiqing, this person didn't seem to know that this was a banquet hosted by the Ji family. What was wrong with Master Du? He didn't even give the young lady food? Does your brother know that you're eating at my house? Ji Yiqing asked with a smile. Chapter 607. Bei Yunj paused. Your house? Ji Yiqing nodded, then looked down at the gift box and casually stuffed it to Bei Yunj. Take it. Bei Yunj frowned unconsciously. What is it? It should be jewelry. I don't need it either. Ji Yiqing had never asked his sister, but according to his sister's generosity, it was undoubtedly a gem. Bei Yunj placed the gift box on the table. I don't need it either. She found it troublesome to keep the 3 safes that Qin Luyan and the other 2 had sent her last time. Miss Pei is too disrespectful. Ji Yiqing chuckled unconsciously. It's just a small thing. Take it as a thank you for helping to contact them. Or, can you bring it to her? Bei Yunj turned around. She's not interested either. Just nice. When Shang Yan, who was beside them, heard this, his lips curved unconsciously as he looked at Bei Yunj with interest. Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched. Up to you. She would get Huashidu to send this back later. Are you? You know without asking. With that said, Ji Yiqing stuffed the gift box back to Bei Yunj confidently. Yu Ling said with a smile. Especially when she saw the gift box in Bei Yunj's hand, her face almost distorted. Bei Yunj did not reply and only ate some food. Suddenly. Miss, so you know Mr. Ji? She never thought that Ji Yiqing would turn around and give Bei Yunj the thank you gift that she had decisively rejected. However, Bei Yunj was not embarrassed at all. I know her, Ji Yiqing answered casually. However, Yu Ling could not help but glance at Bei Yunj, her tone inexplicably strange. Miss Pei is really popular. I'm afraid people give you gifts everywhere you go, right? Shang Yan said, I heard that your brothers gave you a safe of jewelry each. Is that true? I think so. One of them is filled with antiques. Instead, she placed the gift box on the table and ate her snacks. All of a sudden. Qin Luyan and the rest? I heard that the Qin family has been in the limelight recently. I don't know why, but EG Corporation is in a hurry to cooperate. The Qin family also has a very mysterious and powerful hacker. Ji Yiqing said with a smile, Miss Pei's three brothers are all amazing. Pei Yunja's casual words made Yu Ling's expression freeze. Did this girl's brother give her an entire safe when he bought jewelry? The Qin Corporation that cooperated with EG? Previously, she had heard George mention that this was a new force that was at the peak of its power. At this moment, Yu Ling, who was by the side, practically froze all over. Qin Lang? Yu Ling asked with a stiff voice. How could he be this girl's brother? I know that it's unlikely for your brother to have a girlfriend. What about Qin Yu and Qin? And Bei is Kate. Ji Yiqing was still excited when he talked about Pei Yunja's family. Were these two people the ones she knew? Miss, you should have left country A for some time. On the other hand, Yu Ling's mentality almost twisted as an indescribable jealousy spread. Back then, she thought that Song Yao was already a rich young lady that everyone envied. If she could win against Song Yao, she already had the ability to make people envious. But what was wrong with this girl? P.S. There are still 3 chapters left. Be obedient and remember to vote. Chapter 608. Why did someone have everything the moment they were born? This feeling of indignation was even more indignant than when she found out that Song Yao was the eldest young miss of the Song Corporation. Bei Yunj was not interested in the conversation around her. She turned around. When are you going back? I'll send you back first. Shang Yan shook his head and smiled. I've already called someone to pick me up. Hearing this, Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. She had always thought that Shang Yan did not have any acquaintances in Yuncheng. Okay. Bei Yunj nodded. The few of them stood together. Even though they did not talk much, in Yu Ling's eyes, they were all from the same world. Only she came from a humble background. Yu Ling endured the distortion on her face, but she did not notice that there was a pair of gentle eyes beside her that were unhurriedly sweeping over her. There was no warmth in his eyes as he took in her changing emotions. Until, suddenly, a servant ran over, panting. Young master, the pianist over there couldn't be changed. I bumped into young Master Fu on the way and young Master Fu sent someone to us. Sent someone? Ji Yiqing remembered that he did not have much of a relationship with Fu Yanbai. Why was he so polite? Yes, I originally went to the Golden Tripod restaurant to look for the boss and ask if I could hire a pianist. But his pianist happened to apply for leave. When young Master Fu came out, he pushed a lady. At this point, the servant was a little speechless. Fu Yanbai had really pushed that gentle-looking girl to him in front of everyone. Okay, her salary will be 10 times. Ji Yiqing nodded carelessly. Okay, young master. Hearing this, the servant heaved a sigh of relief. However, when everyone saw the young lady who came in with the servant, Yu Ling said instinctively, "It's her?" After a while, Yu Ling finally realized that the Song family was gone. It was understandable that Song Yao would appear here. Dong dong. At this thought, Yu Ling could not help but sigh at how times had changed. However, more than that, she felt an inexplicable sense of superiority and joy. Look! The high and mighty eldest young miss of the Song family was now playing the piano for her, a guest. How interesting! Yu Ling could not suppress the smile on her lips. Mr. Ji is such a good person. 10 times the salary. As soon as he finished speaking. Before Ji Yiqing could speak, a figure at the side suddenly walked over. Yunj? Ji Yiqing reacted, not knowing what was going on. Yu Ling also frowned and watched as Bei Yunj walked toward Song Yao. Could it be that Song Yao knew Bei Yunj? Impossible. Just as Yu Ling's expression froze, Song Yao was already stunned. Yunj? After regaining her senses, Song Yao regained her senses. With Bei Yunj's identity, it did not seem strange for her to appear here. Seeing Bei Yunj's unhappy expression, Song Yao could not help but smile. Her voice was still as pleasant as a mountain stream. I play the piano quite well. Do you want to hear it? Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows, but in the end, she didn't mention Fu Yanbai. When did you learn the piano? 7 years old. My grandfather taught me. Song Yao's eyes curved. But there are so many people. I might be a little nervous. After saying this, Song Yao sat in front of the piano and fiddled with the keys casually. Bei Yunj looked at her for a while and only chuckled. She sat beside Song Yao, her fingertips landing on the black and white piano keys as she said lazily, "Don't be afraid. Play well." Chapter 609. Song Yao blinked and only smiled. Her gentle and refined appearance was an extremely high self-restraint hidden in her bones. Thank you, Yunj. Song Yao smiled. It was not only because Bei Yunj was willing to accompany her, but also because Bei Yunj was protecting her pride and dignity. You're welcome, our eldest Miss Song. Bei Yunj's tone was casual. She sat casually beside Song Yao, making Song Yao feel at ease. With that said, Bei Yunj listened to Song Yao and quickly distinguished which song it was. After a while, the two pairs of hands on the piano played together perfectly. Soon, someone exclaimed, "Wait a minute, this is Du Zhao's Star River." Du Zhao's piano piece was from the era of the gods in our nation's music industry. He became famous overnight and became an unsurpassable dark horse. Nowadays, not many people had the confidence to play such a difficult piece in front of so many people. After all, it was a professional level 9 song. Ah, listen again. Is there Yun's Spring Night Banquet? I'm going to explode. Spring Night Banquet? Some people who did not know did not understand what these people were excited about. You must have heard of the simplified version of Spring Night Banquet. It's Yu Manrin's new song. However, Spring Night Banquet is considered Yun's assignment to the International Musicians Association. It's simply a perfect assignment for the International Musicians Association. The girl said excitedly, I also heard that it seems like it's because old Mr. Du Xiao has always admired the national style and expressed that he hoped that Yun would create a national style composition. That's why there was this Spring Night Banquet. The original song is too magnificent and shocking. It's like a reappearance of the ancient dynasty. Other than her professionalism, even the simplified version of Yu Manrin's lyrics was written by Yun herself. My professional professor said that this is the benchmark of the national style. The amateurs who did not know much shut up. However, it sounded very godlike. This young lady is so amazing. She actually changed Spring Night Banquet to this. With river as the main theme, the style is harmonious and complements each other. At this thought, the girls suddenly felt very sad. No way. A big boss of this level is playing the piano at a banquet? What about me? After graduation, won't the only way out is to play the eru on the road? Stop dreaming. It's not even your turn to play the eru, her best friend whispered next to her. The girl, not long after. Suddenly, someone reacted. Isn't that the eldest daughter of the Qin family? The eldest daughter of the Qin family plays the piano so well? Someone was surprised. The one beside him looks familiar too. Don't even think about it. To be able to reach this standard, she must be a socialite. That's the demeanor of a great family that's ingrained in their bones. Not far away, Yu Ling, who had heard the discussions around her, almost turned green and red. Her fingers clenched the corner of her skirt. At first, she thought that she could mock Song Yao, but now, she was in the same situation. But what happened in the end? She was just playing the piano on stage, and people were praising her as a socialite. I know the song Spring Night Banquet too. George couldn't help but sigh. In country your folk songs are actually very difficult to sell. But this Yun became the newcomer king of this year's International Musicians Association with Spring Night Banquet. I heard that there was a conflict within the International Musicians Association previously because Du Xiao loved Yun's talent, but the other leaders disagreed and felt that Yun was too inexperienced. In the end, they didn't expect that Spring Night Banquet was as shocking as Star back then. River. Chapter 610. It was his first time seeing someone who was not in our nation cause an uproar in the International Musicians Association. It was unbelievable. Besides, apart from his famous song, there was another reason why Du Xiao could successfully become the president back then. He was an immigrant and his nationality was our nation. This was an unspoken rule. If one wanted to obtain international glory, emigration was the best way to reduce controversy. But it was obvious that Yun had no intention of emigrating. Ever since she became a member of the International Musicians Association, she had not even taken a step into our nation. Even if she had never seen this person before, she could tell this person's character. It was not easy to predict. Yu Ling bit her lip. Aren't you deifying this person too much? He's not deified. Even history will be tolerant of such a person. George shook his head. If a person could reach an extreme in a certain aspect, it would be a contribution to human civilization that could not be ignored. Hearing George say this, Yu Ling did not continue. On the other side, Bei Yunj and Song Yao had also ended their duet. The applause lasted for a long time. Bei Yunj and Song Yao chatted as they walked in front of them. In the next moment, Song Yao and Yu Ling looked at each other. Yu Ling's heart palpitated inexplicably and she panicked before she looked away. However, Song Yao's pupils constricted violently and she clenched her fists, her gaze gradually turning cold. Her lips curved. Yu Ling? Yu Ling did not speak, feeling guilty. So you're not dead. Song Yao's voice was calm, but it was a little scary. Bei Yunj, who was beside her, tugged her hand gently. After all, back then, the Song family was ruined because of this woman. How could Song Yao not hate her? Song Yao, thank you for helping me. Yu Ling was afraid that Song Yao would tell her what happened back then. Was it to help? Back then, Miss Yu didn't seem to have given me the right to refuse. Song Yao clenched her fists, remembering how Fu Yanbai had humiliated her back then. Song Yao. But weren't we friends back then? Yu Ling bit her lip, afraid that Song Yao would expose her in front of Ji Yiqing. I thought you wouldn't blame me. However, when Ji Yiqing heard this, he unconsciously frowned, and his gaze towards Yu Ling also became colder. How would I dare to be friends with Miss Yu? Song Yao smiled. Her exquisite eyes were less delicate and more tenacious. I will make them pay for this. Song Yao curved her lips, her eyes filled with coldness. After all, you and Fu Yanbai don't deserve to live so well. She had once liked Fu Yanbai, but that was only in the past. Ever since her father's death, the world had changed in her eyes. In the past 2 to 3 years, she had only made one friend, Bei Yunj. At this very moment. Hearing this, a trace of mockery flashed across Yu Ling's eyes. Song Yao was still so naive. Could it be that she still thought she could make Fu Yanbai pay the price? Suddenly, a servant walked over. Young master Fu outside is asking for someone. At this moment, Ji Yiqing had already roughly guessed what kind of complicated relationship this was. If he gave her to Fu Yanbai, wouldn't Bei Yunj tear him apart? What a joke! Just as expected. In the next moment, he heard Bei Yunj scoff, his tone slightly cold. The Fu Corporation is really capable. Hearing this, the servant also felt that something was wrong. Miss? She smirked. If he wants my person, let him come personally. Chapter 6:11. With that said, Bei Yunj pulled her to the table next door to get desserts. At this moment, just as Yu Ling was feeling mocked that Bei Yunj dared to treat Fu Yanbai like this, the Ji family's servant spoke. Young master, can I get young master Fu to ask for her? Yunchi Yujing Garden number 7. Do you want Fu Yanbai to look for her? Hearing this, Ji Yiqing turned around and smiled at the servant. The servant was speechless. Number 7, if he remembered correctly, it was the place where that person from the Hua family lived? What a joke. Who in Yunqing dared to go to the Hua family to ask for her? You don't have to say anything. Just tell young Master Fu that Miss Pei took her away. Ji Yiqing could tell that Bei Yunj knew Fu Yanbai too. Yes. After the servant left, Yu Ling could not help but ask, is the Qin family very powerful? Even if it was a new force, would they really dare to go against the Fu Corporation because of Song Yao? The Qin family is like the sun in the sky. The newly appointed President Qin is also very business-minded. It's only a matter of time before they jump into the international market. Ji Yiqing glanced at her and smiled slowly. As for Miss Pei, although her temper isn't too good, I believe the Fu family won't want to go against her friends. Just one was enough to shut the Fu family up. Besides, that person from the Hua family was simply protective. At this moment, Yu Ling felt even worse. Jealousy seemed to be rolling in her chest and she could not suppress it. She forced a smile and said, then will the Qin family dote on Miss Pei so much? Did they provoke such a strong enemy for the elder young miss? Suddenly, the servant beside her interrupted, her tone filled with envy. The Qin family? The Qin family is famous for doting on their only sister. Back then, our young master was also invited. That birthday banquet at Yuther residence cost more than 100 million yuan. Ji Yiqing did not deny it. And Yu Ling's expression instantly turned ugly. A birthday banquet cost more than 100 million yuan. Yuther residence is a private residence, right? George, who was standing beside Yu Ling, finally heard a familiar name. Ji Yiqing replied, is the owner of Yuther Mansion a member of Miss Pei's family? George's tone was full of envy. The Yuther Mansion was designed by a famous architect in our country. He spent half of his life to design it. Even the murals in the inner corridor were personally carved by him for 5 years before they were completed. I'm not too sure about that. If you want to take a look, you can ask Miss Pei. Ji Yiqing smiled. That residence belongs to Miss Pei? George asked subconsciously. That's not it. Ji Yiqing chuckled. If Miss Pei likes the moon in the sky, the owner of this mansion will think of a way to pluck it for her. What's more, it's just a mansion. Hearing this, George fell silent. Why was Miss Pei's life better than their country's princess? At this time, Bei Yunj happened to be back. She looked at Ji Yiqing. Did you call me just now? No, but Mr. George wants to visit the Yuther residence. Can you ask your wife? What? Bei Yunj frowned. Just as George panicked and was about to deny it, Ji Yiqing spoke again. It's the place where you celebrated your birthday. Did that person give you the key? The key? No. Without waiting for Ji Yiqing to speak again, Bei Yunj said, my brother gave it to me. He said it was a 19th birthday present. Chapter 6:12. Ji Yiqing was speechless. Why didn't Master Du give him a Platinum Royal Hotel on his 19th birthday? He didn't even manage to get her and he had already given Yuther residence away. What's wrong? Bei Yunj raised an eyebrow. Seeing that Ji Yiqing's expression was not too good, she probed, is the feng shui of that place bad? Even if the feng shui was bad, she could not return what her brother had given her. Ji Yiqing was speechless. George was speechless. No one had considered this question since the beginning of the last century. Yunj, do you know youth or residence? Ji Yiqing felt like he could not find his voice. Bei Yunj did not know what Ji Yiqing wanted to ask her. She paused and said, "It's a rather old but pretty house." Ji Yiqing was speechless. Bei Yunj turned around and glanced at George. "You want to walk around, right? Then I'll go and ask where the keys are." She heard from Huashidu that this house needed regular maintenance, so Bei Yunj did not care much about it. "No need, no need." George hurriedly rejected. What if he entered and lost something valuable inside and couldn't afford to pay for it? Bei Yunj was speechless. Why are all these people acting so strangely? Yunj, don't lose the keys in the future. Song Yao, who was beside her, suddenly tugged at Bei Yunj's sleeve carefully. Her grandmother used to be an architect and she knew about this youth residence. However, she never thought that one day, the owner of this residence would be standing beside her. Bei Yunj felt that something was wrong with this random instruction. However, in the next second, she turned around and asked Shang Yan, "Should I send you back first?" "No need. I'll chat with Mr. Ji for a while. The person who came to fetch me is almost here." Bei Yunj was surprised to see that Shang Yan and Ji Yiqing were getting along well. She nodded. "Brother Ji, take care of Shang Yan." Ji Yiqing said with a smile, "Okay, be careful when you go back with Miss Song." After Bei Yunj and Song Yao left, Shang Yan smiled. "Mr. Ji's wine is very good. It's good that Mr. Shang likes it." Ji Yiqing smiled calmly. He had deliberately mentioned Huashidu just now. Clearly, he was afraid that Shang Yan would have feelings for Bei Yunj and wanted Shang Yan to retreat. Shang Yan's fair and slender hands held the wine glass as he looked at the red wine inside. "I do like it very much. But I also know that my body can't bear this love." With that said, Shang Yan placed the wine glass on the table. At this moment, only Ji Yiqing knew that Shang Yan was not talking about wine. Ji Yiqing's eyes darkened. He only laughed and didn't say anything. And not long after, suddenly, a young man that Ji Yiqing found familiar walked over. He called out respectfully, but it was not difficult to hear the excitement and nervousness in his voice. "President Shang." "Niayu?" A hint of surprise flashed across Ji Yiqing's eyes. Wasn't this the assistant to the top decision-maker of Higgins Group a few years ago? Niayu was stunned for a moment before he recognized Ji Yiqing. He smiled and said, "So it's Mr. Ji. You know each other?" Ji Yiqing asked. "This is my boss." Niayu nodded. When Ji Yiqing heard this, he was stunned. So, this man in the wheelchair was one of the top decision-makers of Higgins Group back then? Chapter 613. Ji Yiqing suddenly felt that Shang Yan's conditions were not bad. If nothing happened to his leg. "Mr. Ji, my people are here too. Let's meet again in the future." Shang Yan smiled. "Mr. Shang, have you not been to country or in the past few years?" Ji Yiqing asked. After all, he had not heard much about this person in the industry in the past few years. "Yes, but I'll be going back in a while." Shang Yan's words also shocked Niayu, who was pushing the wheelchair behind him. Was President Shang finally willing to come back? In the past, no matter what he said, Shang Yan was unwilling to hear any more news from Country R. He thought that it would be difficult for him to see Shang Yan pull himself together in this lifetime, at this moment. Yu Ling, who was observing from the side, also sensed that this man in the wheelchair probably had an extraordinary identity. She clenched her fists instinctively, her nails almost digging into her flesh. She bit her lower lip tightly and her eyes were dark. God was really unfair. Why was it that a person like Bei Yunja's life was so smooth? She could get what she wanted with just a curl of her finger. What about her? Her mother had passed away and her father was only a high school teacher. She had been taught to tolerate since she was young. Why should she give in to these people? Why couldn't she have a good life? At this thought, Yu Ling's jealousy almost swallowed her rationality and her expression was a little ferocious. No. Back then, if she could snatch everything from Song Yao, she could also snatch everything from Bei Yunj. On the way. Are you unhappy? Potato asked. Bei Yunj could not help but tug at Song Yao's braid, her eyes filled with amusement. Song Yao glanced at her in amusement. After holding it in for a moment, she suddenly took off her yellow sun hat and put it on Bei Yunj's head. No. Bei Yunj was speechless. Bei Yunj took off her hat slowly and stopped tormenting her. As for Song Yao, she used to act like a lady, but ever since she was tortured by Bei Yunj, she had become more cheerful than before. Yunj, thank you for today. Song Yao had two dimples when she smiled, looking sweet and quiet. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. You're welcome, Sister Yao. Song Yao was speechless. This guy was really childish and liked to take advantage of others. Bei Yunj knew that Song Yao and Jian Shi had similar hobbies. One of them had the nickname Jian Cici, while the other had taken her phone after adding her on WeChat and added herself as Song Yao Yao. What a strange hobby of repeating words. To be honest, Yunj, I really want to make Fu Yen buy and Yu Ling pay the price through myself. But I know that I'm nothing now. Song Yao's eyes darkened. Previously, she had always felt that if Yu Ling was still alive, she would make Yu Ling and Fu Yen buy regret it. But today, when Yu Ling really appeared in front of her, she realized that she was no longer the eldest young Miss Song of the past. The Song enterprise was gone. She had nothing. Are there any other doubts about what happened back then? Bei Yunj asked. My father's company didn't do anything illegal or illegal. Fu Yanbai only put pressure on those who worked with my father and made the Song family isolated and helpless. Song Yao shook her head. At this point, she could not help feeling a lump in her throat. Back then, she had heard her father and Fu Yanbai's conversation. Fu Yanbai said that as long as the Song family drew a clear line between them, nothing would happen to the Song family. Chapter 6:14. Father Song's love for Song Yao, his only daughter, could be said to be afraid that she would melt in his mouth and fall in his hands. Yao Yao. Bei Yunj was suddenly silent for a moment. Do you mind if I investigate the cause of your father's death? Song Yao was stunned for a moment before she looked up at Bei Yunj. Cause of death? Bei Yunj did not speak and only looked at her. Song Yao's voice was a little hoarse. Sure, thank. Bei Yunj covered half of Song Yao's head with the sun hat and covered her face. I'll stand with you for a while. I'll send you home later in case Andy thinks too much. Hearing Bei Yunj's voice, the emotions that Song Yao had suppressed for so many years and the mask that pretended to be strong in her heart cracked like a flood breaking through a dam. At first, she was just sobbing, but later on, she could not help but sob. After sending Song Yao back, Bei Yunj realized that there was a wet patch on her clothes. It was all because of Song Yao's uncontrollable tears when she suddenly hugged her. Bei Yunj was speechless. It was a little terrible. At this moment, Old Master Leng happened to call. Yunj, is it convenient to answer the call? Bei Yunj answered the call. Yes, what's wrong, Old Master Leng? It's about the matter you asked me to help investigate last time. I asked a rather capable junior to send you the phone number. After all, Old Master Leng was in the war zone and it was not easy for him to deal with such matters. Okay, thank you, Old Master Leng. Child, why are you thanking me? Old Master Leng was grinning from ear to ear, but he was afraid of disturbing Bei Yunj's rest, so he hung up quickly. Soon. After Bei Yunj returned from the shower, she glanced at the name Old Master Leng had written and called this person. Number 7-inch hello? I'm Bei Yunj. After the call went through, Bei Yunj said. Hello, my name is Lu Jian. I'm the captain of Yun Cheng's investigation team. The voice of the person who spoke also sounded like he had a perfect pronunciation. Bei Yunj smirked. Captain Lu. Miss Pei, you're too kind. I heard from old Master Ling that you want to investigate the matter of the eldest daughter of the Song family who went bankrupt 2 years ago? Captain Lu asked. Everything else can be put aside for now. But Song Yao's college entrance examination results were suppressed back then and her student status was changed. I want to seek justice for her. When Bei Yunj said this, his tone was casual, but there was no warmth in it. Miss Pei, you should know who suppressed Miss Song's results, right? He wasn't afraid of getting into trouble, but this Miss Pei, wasn't that a little too daring? Yes. Bei Yunj's smile did not reach her eyes. Captain Lu, can you do me a favor? I will be responsible for all the consequences. Sure, Captain Lu replied. Thank you, Captain Lu. Also, can you help me investigate the cause of Song Yao's father's death? Upon hearing Bei Yunj's question, Captain Lu could not help but ask, Miss Pei, aren't you afraid of being retaliated against? That depends on how capable he is. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and spoke in an indescribably arrogant tone. Then, no problem. 2 days later. There was a huge piece of gossip in Yuncheng. The young master of the Fu Corporation had actually been brought to the police station from the company. Currently, the news was sealed off and no one knew what had happened. Over here. Old Master Fu sat in the visiting room with a dark expression. He raised his walking stick and pointed it at Fu Yanbai, questioning in a low voice, "What on earth did you do outside?" He had asked several old friends, but none of them could get Fu Yanbai out. Chapter 6:15. Fu Yanbai's expression was also cold. From the moment he entered the police station, he had figured out who the person who did this was. Other than Bei Yunj, no one was willing to do this for Song Yao. He really did not expect Huashidu to dote on Bei Yunj so much. Fu Yanbai had always felt that Huashidu must have instructed him to do this. Song Yao killed Yu Ling, so I'm asking Song Yao to pay the debt. Fu Yanbai said expressionlessly. When old Master Fu heard this, he was so angry that he slammed the table and stood up, slapping Fu Yanbai. This commotion was not small and it scared the office staff standing by the side. There was also a very red palm print on Fu Yanbai's fair and handsome face. Old Master Fu really did not show any mercy. So you were the one who did this to the Song family? For that indecent woman? Old Master Fu was trembling with anger as he questioned. Previously, he had heard his mahjong friend say that something was wrong with the Song family, but he did not understand what they meant. But now, he understood. This bastard did all of this. Is that you woman worth you doing this? What did you do to Song Yao? Her college entrance examination results are gone. I was the one who made her go from year 3 to year 2. At this point, Fu Yanbai suddenly smirked sarcastically. If it wasn't for this, I wouldn't have planned to let her graduate. He knew that Song Yao would not give up on studying. Her pursuit was the academic circle. Therefore, he wanted to see how Song Yao stopped at the last step and had no choice but to give up everything. You're a man and you did such a thing to a young girl? Old Master Fu felt that his heart was beating too fast and he was about to faint from anger at this bastard. If it wasn't for her, Yu Ling wouldn't have jumped into the sea. Fu Yanbai still did not think that he was wrong. However, old Master Fu really wanted to strangle this stubborn bastard to death with his own hands. Do you know what the people I found told me? At most, they'll reduce your sentence and let you go to jail for 1 year less. Grandpa, Huashidu did this. Of course, it's useless for you to find someone else. Fu Yanbai's eyes darkened. He wanted to see if Huashidu could dote on Bei Yunj so brazenly in front of these elders. Sure do. Old Master Fu was stunned. He did not understand why Huashidu would do this. Japan. Hua Shidu received a call from old Master Fu. "Shidu, how have you been?" A strange look flashed across Hua Shidu's pale-colored eyes and he said in a low voice, "Pretty good. Is Grandpa Fu in good health?" If Fu Yanbai doesn't do such beastly things, I can also live a long life." Hua Shidu smiled. "What happened?" Hearing Hua Shidu's question, old Master Fu was puzzled. If Hua Shidu was the one who did this, how could he pretend not to know? "Shidu, do you have a little girl with you?" Hua Shidu replied unhurriedly, "Yes." Old Master Fu was silent for a moment. "Then about Song Yao, did you help gather evidence and get Yanbai to go to the police station?" Hearing this, Hua Shidu raised his eyebrows slowly and the pen in his hand paused. "Fu Yanbai went to the police station?" Hua Shidu's eyes darkened. After thinking for a while, he rubbed the pen with his fingers. This seemed to be done by that child. However, Hua Shidu did not expect this young girl to do such a big thing without batting an eyelid. He smiled silently. Chapter 6:16. "Grandpa Fu, I'm sorry. My child is insensible." When the man said this, he was slow and did not sound apologetic. Old Master Fu could tell that something was wrong. "Shidu, you don't know about this either?" Hua Shidu had always been a person who did not hide anything. Old Master Fu had watched him grow up, so of course he knew this. The young lady has done a lot of things. It's indeed quite difficult to know everything. Although he said that, it was not difficult for old Master Fu to hear the doting tone in his voice. What made old Master Fu unable to believe was that the person who could dote on the young lady like this was that aloof Hua Shidu. Old Madame Hua had complained a lot that her eldest grandson was unreliable. This was only slightly better than being a monk. "Shidu, can you help Grandpa Fu?" Old Master Fu asked. Old Master Fu was a reasonable person, but in the end, Fu Yanbai was his biological grandson. "I want to help you too, Grandpa Fu." Hua Shidu's low and calm voice was pleasing to the ear. "But that young lady is vengeful. Whether I can start a family early in the future will depend on her." Soon. Song Yao also found out about this because old Master Fu came looking for her. She did not expect Fu Yanbai to really be sent to the police station. "Miss Song, I'm really sorry. Yanbai has gone overboard in this matter. I will definitely teach him a lesson." Old Master Fu raised his walking stick and bowed to Song Yao solemnly. "Old Master Fu, you..." Song Yao took a step back instinctively, but was interrupted by old Master Fu. "Is Mrs. Song all right? Mother maintains a breakfast shop and occasionally sells desserts. I also work myself and can maintain my life. The Song family's matter has already caused this. Our Fu family has an unshirkable responsibility." Old Master Fu asked, "Miss Song, if you don't mind, I'm willing to bear all the expenses for you and Mrs. Song." "Old Master Fu, you're too polite." Song Yao clenched her fists subconsciously and pursed her red lips. Old Master Fu said, "Miss Song, don't think too much. I'm only doing this to compensate the Song family and repay my grandson's debt." Suddenly. Old Master Fu, Fu Yanbai's debt was a life. It's very difficult to repay it. Old Master Fu froze instinctively. Then he turned around and saw Pei Yunj walking in. He hesitated. "You are, sir, I'm Bei Yunj." Bei Yunj's lips curved into a smile. Old Master Fu looked at Bei Yunj for a long time. He didn't expect such a girl to make Fu Yanbai unable to get out of the police station. "I know you. You were the one who collected the evidence against Yanbai, right?" Bei Yunj replied calmly, "Yes." There was a long silence. Song Yao instinctively grabbed Pei Yunj and shielded her slightly behind her. But in the next moment, old Master Fu sighed. "That's true. It's just karma." Bei Yunj didn't dislike the old man. "Sir, you don't have to run around for your grandson. If it wasn't for that woman, Yanbai wouldn't have done such a thing. Halfway through his words, old Master Fu didn't want to talk about the matter between Fu Yanbai and that woman anymore. He only looked up at Song Yao helplessly and said sincerely, "Miss Song, I'm very sorry about your father's death." Chapter 6:17. Old Master Fu, you don't owe me. Song Yao took a deep breath and smiled faintly. I have a good part-time job now. There's no need to trouble the Fu family. Seeing Song Yao's firm attitude, old Master Fu did not say anything else. After old Master Fu left, Song Yao suppressed the strange emotions in her heart and turned to look at Bei Yunj. Yunj, how did you send Fu Yanbai in? I asked a friend for help. Bei Yunj's words made Song Yao suddenly feel that she was the worst of Bei Yunj's friends. Yunj, Song Yao pursed her lips and her voice became softer. Did I cause you a lot of trouble? Bei Yunj knocked Song Yao's head and suddenly asked without rhyme or reason, is Auntie Song here? Can I go and have a meal? Song Yao was stunned for a moment before she laughed. Sure. My mother has wanted you to come to our house as a guest for a long time, but she was afraid that you would dislike it. It was not a good thing to offend Fu Yanbai. I do owe him a favor for making someone I just met busy collecting evidence. But this is not trouble. Bei Yunj had just finished afternoon tea with Elder Zhong and called Huashidu when she came back. However, seeing that Huashidu did not answer, she called the landline in the study. At the computing institute. The blond old man, who was waiting for Huashidu in the study, asked. Bei Yunj, who was leaning against the pantry and plucking Si Chengyan's bonsai, stopped. However, she did not expect an old man from our nation with a Neely accent to answer the call. Hello, who are you? She could not help but chuckle. Grandpa? Although Bei Yunj had never been to the Hua family's old mansion, she still knew that old Master Hua had passed away a long time ago. The old man did not seem to be very patient and his tone was filled with displeasure. I'm the grandfather of the owner of this house. Hearing this, for a moment, Bei Yunj almost thought that she had called the wrong number. Before Mr. Fernandes could finish his words, he suddenly heard the other party say lazily, "It's fine." What a coincidence, Grandpa. I'm here to ask the owner of this house for living expenses. As for this old man with an authentic Neely accent, it was obvious that he was a liar. Who are you? Let me tell you, I don't have so much time to chat with a girl like you. It seems like you don't know. As Bei Yunj walked to her research lab, she sent a message to Huashidu as she smiled lazily. I've been raised by him for a long time. He's the one who gave me my living expenses. Mr. Fernandes paused. What did you say? A girl was asking for livings to ask for living expenses? You're a liar. Mr. Fernandes' voice turned cold as he refused to admit it. Believe it or not, that's up to you. S2zzzz Bei Yunj gege. What? Bei Yunj's interest was piqued. She wanted to know how long this old gentleman, who was not good at deception, could continue acting. Teat. Bei Yunj chuckled when she heard this old man calling her a thief. Then, her lips suddenly curled up and she said leisurely, if you don't want anything to happen, I think you'd better take some action. On the other hand, Mr. Fernandes widened his eyes. He could not believe that this young lady had made extortion sound so fresh and refined. Shouldn't most young ladies think about how to get his approval first? Why did she start extorting him directly? Chapter 6:18. Little girl, aren't you too short-sighted? Do you know how rich I am? The old man asked in disbelief. Bei Yunj smiled when she heard that. After she sent the message, she started to write the experiment report. We young people are only interested in earning quick money. The old man was speechless. Think carefully, Grandpa. With that, Bei Yunj hung up the phone and looked at the message she had sent to Huashidu. However, she guessed that he was still in a meeting and did not see it. The security system is too lousy. Bei Yunj objectively evaluated the hotel Shidu was staying at. At this moment, old Mr. Fernandes, who was sitting in Neely Hotel, felt that he had fallen into the #1 crisis of his old age. He really did not expect that the biological grandson he was most proud of would actually do such a thing, although it was not uncommon to keep young girls as mistresses in the industry. But if it was exposed, it would still have a certain impact. "Nosai, did you hear that?" The old man thought of this and looked anxiously at his old butler. "That. Old sir, after all, Mr. Shidu is just a young man full of vigor. Actually, this is very normal." Nosai said softly. You're right, you're right." The old man nodded. Not long after, he immediately grabbed Nosai's hand. "Nosai, quick! Send a message to this girl and ask her for her bank account number." "Are you planning to?" Nosai hesitated for a moment. There were 7 biological grandsons in the family, but the only one who could make the old man take the initiative to pay hush money was probably Mr. Shidu, who had the worst relationship with the old man. "Aren't you talking nonsense? Shidu's reputation is very important." Hearing that, Nosai quickly sent a message to Bei Yunj. At this moment, 27kk Bei Yunj was still writing a report and did not read the message. But a few minutes later, Bei Yunja's phone kept ringing with unknown calls. Bei Yunja's eyebrows moved and she picked it up without looking. "Who is it?" The old man could not wait any longer and snatched the phone from Nosai. "Give me your bank account number." After that, the old man immediately hung up the phone, as if he didn't want to say another word to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj? Were scammers nowadays so competitive? Bei Yunj laughed, leaned back in the chair, and slowly sent the card number over. Si Qingyan, who was passing by, glanced at Bei Yunj, whose eyes were curved, and felt a chill run down his spine. The last time Bei Yunj smiled at him like that, his half-year prize had been taken away by Bei Yunj. At the thought of this, Si Qingyan hurriedly went to the pantry, not daring to stay in this troublesome place. In the research room, Bei Yunj had just finished writing her report when she saw several text messages. "Your debit card ending with XXXX received 10 million yuan at 14:30 on October 5. Your savings card ending with XXXX received 100 million yuan at 14:32 on October 5. Your savings card ending with XXXX received 100 million yuan at 14:35 on October 5. Bei Yunj? Were all scammers these days so sincere? After coming back to her senses, Bei Yunj was about to make a call when she received several text messages from unknown numbers. "How much is your annual living expenses? I'll give my grandson this much in advance. Is a year enough?" Bei Yunj, at this moment, Bei Yunj vaguely felt that she had gone overboard again. On Neely's side. Chapter 619. The old man had even told his grandchildren in the past that if anyone brought up the matter of their lover, he would not have a grandson. But in the end, he had to pay for his favorite grandson's living expenses to keep the little girl. Did I give too little? The old man could not help but ask Nosai, does this amount not match the value of our Fernandes family? I don't think that's the problem. It was unknown if the old man had heard him, but he nodded to himself and said, anyway, Shidu doesn't seem to be planning to get married. It's fine to have a little girl by his side. If what she wanted was money, then this relationship would be very strong. After all, our Fernandes family has plenty of money. Then, the old man came to a realization and was pleasantly surprised. Then, didn't I buy Shidu a love that will never be lost? Nosai, was he crazy, or was the old man crazy? Old man, you. Before Nosai could finish speaking, he suddenly received a text message on his phone. Old man, I'm sorry. I was joking with you just now. As soon as he saw this message clearly, Nosai saw that the money that he had just transferred to Bei Yunj had been transferred back. This speed was even faster than when they had just transferred the money. But how did Bei Yunj know their bank information? Just as Nosai was thinking about this question, the old man's expression changed. He asked solemnly, "Does she really think it's too little?" Nosai hurriedly said, "Old man, don't be anxious. Let me ask, hurry, hurry, hurry." The old man urged nervously. On the other side. Although Bei Yunj felt that this old man was quite strange, he did not seem like someone who would steal, so she did not care much. Ran when, however, not long after, Bei Yunj turned around and saw the old man sending money crazily. It was as if the 9-digit number was just a number to him. Bei Yunj, looking at the endless transfer records, Bei Yunj's eyelids twitched and she immediately turned on her computer. A few minutes later, Norsi received a phone call. After hanging up, he said to the old man, "Sir, there seems to be a problem with our account at the bank. We can't transfer the money to that lady." "Why is there a problem now?" The old man frowned unhappily. "Maybe, it was a little too much just now." Nacha's eyelids twitched. The living expenses that old Mr. gave that little girl were several times more than the living expenses of his own young master and young mistress. Yet, he still felt that it wasn't enough. Why didn't he let Mr. Huashidu and that little girl get married on the spot? "No, I must make that little girl realize that our Fernand's family has money." The old man was very insistent. Nachi, why was this kind of nouveau riche behavior vividly displayed by the head of an aristocratic family? On the other side, Bei Yunj was also returning this unexpected fortune to the original owner. Suddenly, Huashidu called. After answering the call, Bei Yunj heard the man's deep and pleasant voice. "What's the matter, Yunyun? Brother, do you have another grandfather?" Bei Yunj's question made Huashidu, who had just finished a meeting, gradually darken his pale-colored eyes. "Not long after," he said slowly, "the Hua family is actually my mother's home. Strictly speaking, I take my mother's surname." Chapter 620. Hearing this, Bei Yunj was stunned for a moment. She could roughly guess the reason behind this. "Where did you find out about this?" The man lowered his voice and laughed. His deep voice still sounded casual. "I just made a call." An old man picked up. Bei Yunj did not hide it. She silently transferred all the money that the old man had just transferred back. She could also tell that her brother did not have a good relationship with that old man. "What did you say to him?" Bei Yunj said, "I asked him to give me some money to spend." Not long after. The man's low laughter was tainted with a layer of bewitching magnetism through the electric current, and it tickled her. Bei Yunj also roughly explained what had happened just now. After hearing this, the man only said casually, "Little liar. How could she know that this was really Huashidu's biological grandfather?" Suddenly, the man's deep and magnetic voice carried a frivolous smile as he whispered into her ear, "Yunyun, do you want to be my child bride so much?" Hearing this, Bei Yunj could not take it anymore and hung up the phone. In a company meeting room in our nation, the man's low and hoarse laughter could not help but ring out. The female secretary who came in blushed and her heart skipped a beat when she saw the man's handsome and noble appearance. This man's eyes were beautiful, and his smile was completely electrifying. It was affectionate and seductive. "Mr. Hua." The female secretary revealed her most impeccable smile. "Boss is on the way and will be here soon. Do you need me to do anything for you?" However, as soon as she finished speaking, the smile in the man's eyes had already disappeared. His pale-colored eyes were light and abstinent. No need. The Huashidu in front of her was not like the men she had seen in the past. It was as if he was not interested in her existence. The female secretary's competitive spirit was aroused. She walked to Huashidu's side and sat gently on the conference table. Her soft and boneless hand brushed past the side of her snow-white thigh. A man like Mr. Hua is swift and decisive in the business world. I think you have a strong desire to conquer other aspects. The female secretary's voice was low and gentle, as if she was flirting. If it was someone else, she would have already used the tip of her shoe to lightly rub against the man's trousers. However, she felt an inexplicable sense of fear towards this man. He always felt that it was unattainable. If this is EOM's cooperative attitude, we can tell Homo not to come here. Huashidu suddenly stood up. His tone was light and lazy, but his eyes were cold and distant. Hearing this, the female secretary panicked and her expression changed drastically. Mr. Hua, I didn't mean that. She had heard that Mr. Hua was a very clean and honest person. But did he really not need any consolation when he was alone in a foreign land? Miss, isn't it time for you to leave? At this moment, Tseng Su walked in and asked with a smile. What the hell? In Yuncheng, she had to guard against those women with bad intentions. In Nili, these women were even bolder. I'm sorry, Mr. Hua, Tseng Su quickly interrupted her with a smile. Madam, President Hua doesn't like to be disturbed. The woman's expression changed. Without saying anything, she walked out. Did you let her in just now? Huashidu's voice sounded unhurriedly. Chapter 621. I hired you to work here to be a door god? Tseng Su could not refute for a moment. After struggling for a moment, he could only accept his fate. Master Du, this won't happen again. Huashidu glanced at him casually and did not say anything else. 2 days later. 5 in the morning. Bei Yunj had just gone downstairs to get some water and stood in front of the dining table when she suddenly saw the man walking in. She was stunned. Brother, Huashidu had just gotten off the plane when he returned. He saw that the young lady was wearing a spaghetti dress and her black hair was draped lazily over her shoulders. She was not afraid of catching a cold at all. Yun, you still did a lot of things when I wasn't around. The man curled his lips and took a thin blanket from the sofa. He covered the girl's shoulders and rubbed her head as a punishment. Bei Yunj put down the glass of water. Are you talking about the Fu Corporation? I heard from Grandpa Fu that you got Fu Yanbai involved, Huashidu said slowly. She could not tell if he was unhappy. Yes. Bei Yunja's eyes were clear and she did not hide it. Don't let Fu Yanbai's matter affect the Fu Corporation. The man reached out casually and pinched her cheek. His low and magnetic voice was lazy. He might not be the one to inherit it. Bei Yunj was stunned. Are there any other heirs to the Fu Corporation? Wasn't Fu Yanbai the only child? There's also an illegitimate child. Huashidu said casually. Bei Yunj understood. Old Master Fu doesn't have any intention of changing the heir, right? Let's see if that illegitimate child has some ability. Bei Yunj had always thought that if Huashidu knew about this, he would probably ask her to stop. However, she did not expect Huashidu to help her instead. Brother, are you planning to help that person? Bei Yunj asked. The Fu Corporation has to be kept. As for who inherits it, it has nothing to do with me. Huashidu's thin red lips curled into a casual smile as he scratched her chin. At the Computing Institute, Bei Yunj spent the next 2 weeks preparing for a new project. Seeing that the door to Bei Yunja's research lab was tightly shut, Si Chengyan, who was in the courtyard, could not help but take a few more glances. What are you looking at? Zhong Xinglin patted Si Chengyan's shoulder and asked in confusion. No, I just can't imagine that someone of Master Pei's age can be so crazy when it comes to research. Si Chengyan couldn't help but admire him. Wasn't this patience a little too good? It had been more than 2 weeks. When he met Bei Yunj on the road, she didn't say a word. She seemed to be thinking about her research project. Before he could say anything, the man had already returned to the research room. You're the one who jumps up and down like a monkey every day. How dare you say that she's crazy? Zhong Xinglin had always been biased. He started to compare Bei Yunj and Si Qingyan the moment they disagreed. Si Qingyan was speechless. After he finished a project, he would have to rest for at least 3 months. He was not like this person, who continuously worked on the next project. However, Yunj is still young. It's not appropriate for her to stay in the research room all the time, Zhong Xinglin frowned and said worriedly. Then how about this? I heard that Nili University has placed the competition in the center of Yuncheng. Why don't I take her around? Si Qingyan also felt that Bei Yunja's life should not only be about research. If she continued to stay like this, not to mention her body, she would probably have more psychological problems. Chapter 622. Who else could it be for? They just want to meet our noble and cold scientific researcher. Si Qingyan chuckled. Zhong Xinglin was speechless. Why were those people still unwilling to give up? But don't worry. I heard Master Pei's conversation and heard her personally reject Nili University's invitation to meet. Si Qingyan was still holding the thermos flask in his hand as he sighed. Our family is a hot treasure now. After all, the double nomination of the Farisk Award and the Busaka Award was indeed very shocking. There's no way they can snatch it now. Zhong Xinglin laughed coldly and pointed at the dozen bodyguards at the door. Do you see that? This door can only be entered, but not exited. Si Qingyan was speechless. Where did you find those people? All along, Si Qingyan had thought that Zhong Xinglin had gotten them to fight with someone for Bei Yunj. He was afraid that others would snatch what he had painstakingly poached. Zhong Xinglin could also see Si Qingyan's disdain. He reached out and knocked his head, his expression dark. What do you mean, where did you find them? This is what the higher-ups want. The higher-ups want? Si Qingyan was stunned. Zhong Xinglin said, to maintain safety. I'm afraid that criminals will target our computing institute. Si Qingyan was speechless. Why didn't we receive this treatment in the past? Hearing this, Zhong Xinglin looked at him and smiled without saying anything. When Si Qingyan saw this, he understood the reason. So they were here to protect Bei Yunj. Why didn't they just guard the entrance of her research lab? How spectacular would it be if they surrounded her? Si Qingyan could no longer suppress the envy, jealousy, and hatred in his heart. That will depend on when Yunj reveals her identity. Instantly. Si Qingyan understood. So it wasn't that he didn't want to stand at the door, but that she didn't want him. When would it be his turn to receive such treatment as a national treasure? Do your research well. You'll probably have this treatment in more than 10 years. Zhong Xinglin patted Si Qingyan's shoulder. Si Qingyan was speechless. This kind of consolation was worse than no consolation at all. At the end of the day, Si Qingyan was also very talented. Otherwise, how could he become a professor at Yun University in his 20s? However, ever since Bei Yunj appeared, she had given the others too much pressure. By the way, when did the competition in the city center start? Zhong Xinglin asked. Si Qingyan replied without hesitation, 2:30 this afternoon. Zhong Xinglin, now, who the hell would dare to get Bei Yunj out of the lab? Go and get him out. If you can't get him out, don't even think about getting this month's salary. Zhong Xinglin pushed him towards the entrance of Bei Yunj and he slipped away quickly. Si Qingyan? Was this something a human would do? After turning around, Si Qingyan knocked on the door. Master Pei? Si Qingyan knocked a few times before the door suddenly opened. He saw Bei Yunj, whose expression was a little dark. Her excessively beautiful eyes were filled with impatience. What's wrong? Do you want to go to the city center with me? The moment Si Qingyan finished speaking, the door closed with a bang. At the same time, Bei Yunj said resolutely. No. Si Qingyan, who had almost been rejected, was speechless. A few minutes later. Bei Yunj returned to the computer and looked at the virtual data she had written. Not long after she sat down, she received another call. Chapter 623. Bei Yunj glanced at the caller ID and answered the call. What's wrong? Song Yao, who was preparing for the competition, noticed that Bei Yunj's voice seemed a little hoarse. Goober, I'm having a competition this afternoon. Are you coming to watch? Song Yao's voice was gentle and soft, making people like her immediately. I'm busy. Bei Yunj stared at the screen intently. But I'm a little nervous to go on stage alone. Hearing this, Bei Yunj stopped working on the keyboard and asked, Are Tich and the rest not around? Tich and Jasmine are student notaries. It's not good for them to interact with me on the field. Song Yao glanced at her watch and smiled. If you don't come, it's meaningless to get first place. However, she did not expect to see Si Chengyan the moment she pushed open the door. Bei Yunj's eyes suddenly curved. Brother Yen? Si Chengyan was speechless. He hated Bei Yunj calling him that now. Hearing this, Bei Yunj smirked. After saving the data on the computer, he stood up. Okay, wait for me for half an hour. With that said, Bei Yunj hung up the call, took off his clean white coat, and walked out. Lend me a car? I want to go to the city center. Soon. Every time she called him, nothing good would happen. What do you want now? Si Chengyan took a deep breath. My friend is having a competition. I'll go take a look. Bei Yunj probably did not rest well. The moment the air conditioner in the car was turned on, his voice was slightly hoarse and nasal. Si Chengyan looked at Bei Yunj in the back seat. She was wearing a loose sweater and even the hood covered most of her face. She was leaning lazily against the car seat with her arms crossed and he could not help frowning. Si Chengyan drove her to the city center. Because Bei Yunj did not have a driver's license, he did not dare to borrow her car. Why are you going to the city center? Si Chengyan could not help but be puzzled. But now, with Bei Yunj's crazy research, her body would not be able to take it sooner or later. Nothing will happen. Bei Yunj licked her lips. Her voice was still hoarse. Yunj, haven't you been too unrestrained recently? If this goes on, how long do you think you can live? There were also many scholars in the scientific research circle. Due to their profession, they were exposed to too much radiation, their lifespans were shortened, or their appearances were damaged. However, in the field of computing, as long as he took good care of his body, there would not be any accidents. At this moment, someone pointed at the girl in the white dress and said enviously, she has such a good temperament. You're talking about that? That seems to be a student from Neely University's Art Academy. Her name seems to be Yuling. The girl recognized Yuling, Neely University. That's amazing. Si Chengyan couldn't take it anymore and threw a bottle of water behind him. In the city center auditorium. Look at that big sister, she's so pretty. Yuling also heard the discussions behind her. The corners of her lips curled up at the perfect angle, as if she was used to these praises. Spirit? She's more than just amazing. She's one of the student notaries for this year's math competition. You have to know that all the previous notaries are influential figures in Neely University. Hearing this, everyone looked at Yuling with even more admiration. She's so good-looking and so outstanding. Is she the female lead who walked out of the movie? In the distance, Yuling's mentor called out to her. Professor, what's wrong? Yuling took small steps forward and asked with a smile. Go and gather with the other student notaries. The competition will be official soon. Chapter 624. Who are the other student notaries? Yuling didn't know about this. She was able to get this spot because she knew a senior who happened to have an infectious disease and couldn't go abroad. As for the school, they couldn't find any other students to replace them, so they found Yuling, who was already in Yuncheng. Tich and Jasmine. The tutor's eyes were proud and he couldn't stop smiling. They are the students of. Yu Ling had some impression of this name. She seemed to have heard this person's name a lot recently. An amazing scientific researcher. The tutor praised with some regret. This is the first time I've seen such a genius, but she's from country A. Country A. Yu Ling was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but look at her tutor. She was actually aware of some of the bad practices in country R's academic circle. Many scholars in country R actually had a lot of prejudice and conflict against scholars from country A. Not to mention praising a scholar from country A so straightforwardly. So, how amazing was this person that these arrogant people were willing to admit it? That's right. The tutor looked at Yu Ling and smiled. You won't understand even if I tell you this. Such an existence is a genius that every big country is willing to fight for. Being said so straightforwardly, the smugness on Yu Ling's face instantly disappeared and she even stiffened. Is that so? I have to admit that country A is developing rapidly now. But in reality, it will take at least 200 years for country A's computing field to catch up with country R. The tutor shook his head and smiled helplessly. But now, it doesn't seem to be the case. A genius who appeared out of nowhere could easily cause a change in the world's situation. Is that amazing? Lei asked. Yu Ling couldn't help but ask. Yes, we estimate that country A's computing field will make an immeasurable leap in the years she's alive. The tutor was sincere and envious. But I heard that she seems to be very young, maybe only in her 30s or 40s. The younger she was, the faster country A's computing field would grow. At this moment. After the tutor finished speaking, he felt that he had said too much and immediately said to Yu Ling, "Go look for Tich and the others." Okay. Yu Ling lowered her head and no one could tell what she was thinking. Last time, when she left the Ji family, it was obvious that Ji Yiqing had no interest in her. But now, she had the chance to come into contact with Tich and Jasmine. The two of them were famous second-generation heirs of the richest families in country R. If she could befriend one of them, she wouldn't have to live like before anymore. Thinking of this, Yu Ling's eyes darkened and she quickened her pace. Soon. In the long corridor backstage, she saw two handsome foreign men. Yu Ling blushed. Is it Mr. Jasmine and Mr. Tich? Jasmine's appearance was handsome and unruly. His temperament was a little roguish, and his pair of blue eyes were mesmerizing. As soon as Yu Ling's eyes met his, she couldn't look away. You are? Jasmine leaned against the wall lazily and glanced at Yu Ling. I'm Neely's student notary. Teacher, hopes that we can go find him together. Alright, let's go together then. Jasmine nodded, but after that, he chatted with Tich the entire time. He didn't even look at Yu Ling. Chapter 625. Tich didn't know what Jasmine was thinking. Did he like Song Yao? Was he being too daring? If they broke up and his ex-girlfriend was his teacher's good friend, was there anything more suffocating than this? Seeing that Tich ignored him, Jasmine was still immersed in his own imagination. How could he woo his teacher's good friend? At this moment, when Yu Ling heard the word Yao, she panicked inexplicably. However, when she regained her senses, she immediately dismissed her thoughts. What a joke. With Song Yao's current status, she did not even have much contact with the upper-class society. How could she come into contact with a rich second-generation heir like Jasmine? Yu Ling calmed her nervous breathing and said with a smile, Mr. Jasmine, do you have a girl you like? Jasmine glanced at Yu Ling and only nodded, not saying anything. Hearing this, Yu Ling felt an inexplicable imbalance in her heart. She did not know who had captured the heart of a top young master so easily. She was most likely one of those noble ladies who was well matched in terms of social status. Yu Ling gave a fake smile. Mr. Jasmine is so outstanding. Why don't you dare to express your feelings? With my status, I might not have the right to woo her. Jasmine had added Song Yao's account some time ago and clicked into Song Yao's WeChat moments. He had almost secretly taken photos of Bei Yunj. She would not show her face. At most, she would only show her side profile slightly. However, those who were familiar with her would be able to recognize Bei Yunj at a glance. When Yu Ling heard this, she felt that her guess was right. I think that young lady should be very beautiful and capable, right? Unlike me, who studied design and barely got into Neely University. Yu Ling said with a smile. Tich glanced at Yu Ling and said nothing. At this moment, Jasmine's eyelids lifted slightly as he casually agreed. Yes, it's very impressive. Yu Ling's expression changed and her smile froze. Shouldn't most of the guys be praising her tactfully at this moment? At this moment. Yu Ling did not say anything else. The three of them went backstage to look at the machines needed for the competition. Tich and Jasmine were not interested in this and did not pay much attention. On Yu Ling's side, she casually flipped through the competition group and suddenly saw a familiar name. Song Yao. Yu Ling's eyes darkened and she suddenly remembered that Song Yao had been forced to repeat high school by Fu Yanbai. So it turned out to be true. The corners of Yu Ling's lips suddenly curled up and she was in a good mood. She never thought that one day, she would be a notary and Song Yao would be a competitor. In the past, Song Yao was the top student in Yuncheng First High. He was more outstanding than her in every aspect. He looked so high and mighty. Thinking of this, Yu Ling laughed mockingly. Then, she recalled the words she had heard on the road earlier. They seemed to be discussing that Xia Ning was also participating in the competition. Yu Ling remembered this junior. She had a good relationship with her back then, and she was talented in mathematics. It was more than enough to get into the top 3 of the competition. Suddenly, Yu Ling laughed and suddenly swiped the screen, changing Song Yao's original opponent to Su Xianing. If Song Yao did not pass the first round, she had no hope of entering the top 10. Yu Ling's eyes were filled with uncontrollable joy and jealousy. She wanted to see if anyone could help Song Yao this time. After the competition started for a while, a familiar person backstage suddenly shouted. Song Yao, where did you come from? Chapter 626. Song Yao wiped her sweat and placed a plastic bag on the table. Her voice was clear and gentle. I bought something. Are you sick? Why did you buy medicine? The girl looked over and saw that there seemed to be a box of cold medicine. It's not for me. Song Yao laughed. Hearing this, the girl finally noticed that there was something else in the plastic bag. For a child? My brother liked to eat these snacks when he was young, but he didn't like them after junior high school. Hearing this, Song Yao could not help but smile. Yes, only children like them. The competition started very quickly. Although it was called an auditorium, the size of the building was more like a large event venue. There were high platforms on both sides and a large screen in front of them, making it easier to see the competition venue. About half an hour later, Song Yao glanced at the time and did not see Bei Yunj, so she could only put the things in the lounge first. Because she would be going on stage soon. What the F***ck? What the hell? Our opponents are Su Xianing and the rest? Song Yao's teammates' faces were almost ferocious. Let our country's teams kill each other. Neely University is heartless. This competition is randomly matched, another person said. At this moment, another boy sighed. But I heard from that blabbermouth in our class that our opponent is clearly the M country team. She did not expect to be deceived by fake news. Song Yao, we've dragged you down. If I had known, I wouldn't have teamed you up. The other three were very embarrassed. Song Yao was stunned for a moment before she smiled. It's okay. However, as soon as he said that, someone knocked on the door of their lounge. Song Yao's team, right? The bespectacled teacher asked. Song Yao was stunned. Yes. Congratulations on advancing. All the best in the next round. With that said, the teacher turned and left. Song Yao's entire team was speechless. What was this? They had won before the competition even started? Xiaofan, did you buy a place behind our backs? The two girls looked at the boy with a rich family background. Xiaofan was speechless. Was this something he could *King afford? He couldn't even buy it with his entire family's wealth, alright? Su Xianing, who was in the next group, was also confused. Why is that? Su Xianing pursed her lips. She had just seen that her opponent was Song Yao, so she had been looking forward to the moment when she would embarrass Song Yao. But how did she advance? What about Song Yao's team? There's an individual international player in the next group. According to the rules, the team that the individual international player is in will directly advance to the first 3 rounds. As soon as he finished speaking, the members of Su Xianing's group all sucked in a breath of cold air. Originally, they thought that hugging Su Xianing's thigh was already good enough. In the end, the neighboring group advanced without competing? An individual international contestant? Then why isn't our Xiaoning one? Some people were unwilling. Hearing this, the teacher just smiled and said, individual international contestants need to be recommended by internationally recognized scientific researchers. In our University, only the former principal has this qualification. Who on earth is in the next group with such a big background? Everyone was instantly curious. I guess it's that guy. I heard that his family is very rich. Chapter 627. Hearing this, everyone fell silent. There were many scholars who looked relatively poor in the scientific research field. They really loved scientific research and did not pursue money. However, it was impossible to say that the scientific research field could not earn money. Everyone still remembered the 10 billion yuan project from a while ago. I really hope that we will still meet the next team in the next round, someone said softly. However, when Su Xianing heard this, her expression did not look too good. With a dark expression, she clenched her fists. Song Yao was really lucky. Not only could she participate in the competition for no reason, but she was also assigned to the same team as the international individual contestants. At the same time, Yu Ling, who was also looking forward to Su Xianing and Song Yao's competition, realized that something was wrong. It had been an hour and she still hadn't seen Song Yao and Su Xianing. What on earth was going on? Yu Ling regained her senses and immediately went backstage to check the information. She found that Song Yao and Su Xianing's team had advanced directly. Her expression changed, not knowing what was going on. Then, her voice was sweet. Teacher, there seem to be 2 teams here who didn't compete and advanced directly. Oh, you're talking about this. We have an international individual contestant in this competition. Her team will advance directly, and so will her opponent. The teacher said carelessly. Hearing this, Yu Ling almost couldn't maintain her expression. What kind of luck did Song Yao have? She actually encountered such a good thing. But this is also rare. It's rare to meet an international individual contestant. After all, an international individual contestant will advance to the 3rd round directly. If there are a few more international individual contestants, the competition won't be able to compete. Yu Ling suddenly had a bad feeling. She looked at the next round of competition. It was still Song Yao's team. But a few seconds later, Song Yao's team skipped over and advanced again. The international individual contestant was actually in Song Yao's team? Cool writing. Yu Ling's expression was extremely ugly. After these 3 rounds, Song Yao had completely picked up the ranking for nothing. Yu Ling took a deep breath, anger surging in her chest. She had never thought that Song Yao would be so lucky. About an hour later, Song Yao's team finally appeared. Coincidentally, they still bumped into Su Xianing's team in this round. However, Su Xianing's expression did not look too good. Their group had also passed 2 rounds of the competition before they could advance to the next round. But what about Song Yao? He had actually advanced so easily. Su Xianing bumped into Song Yao backstage and laughed coldly. "You're really lucky. I don't know how you managed to cozy up to her." After that, Su Xianing left, while the people in Song Yao's team looked confused. What did he mean by Song Yao cozying up to him? They were clearly the ones who were riding on the golden coattails. This round of the competition began. Su Xianing's group appeared first. Because Su Xianing had an artist sister, she was considered half a public figure. Many people in the stadium were cheering for Su Xianing. There were even fans of Su Xianing's sister who came to hold banners. Su Xianing raised her chin and naturally accepted these gazes. At this moment, Yu Ling, who had finally waited for Song Yao's competition, was also staring fixedly at the calm Song Yao backstage. Didn't Song Yao feel inferior? But she had already become a pile of mud that anyone could step on. How could she still maintain her arrogance? Yu Ling unconsciously clenched her fists. Seeing that Song Yao was still calm and composed despite the awkwardness of no one supporting her team, she looked forward to seeing this elder young miss being trampled on even more ruthlessly. Suddenly. Chapter 628. Everyone looked up and saw an excessively beautiful girl with bright eyebrows lazily leaning against the railing. She raised her arm casually, revealing a small section of her cold and fair arm. She waved the bouquet of white roses in her hand at Song Yao casually, a smile on her lips. Bei Yunj did not speak and only looked at Song Yao with curved eyes. But in the next moment, Bei Yunj suddenly saw a big heart on the support sign from the corner of her eye. So, she narrowed her beautiful eyes and suddenly smirked. Her arm under her loose sweater bent and she made a heart for Song Yao. Si Chengyan was speechless. Master Pei's D*MN desire to win, she did not even want to lose. On the other hand, the fangirls below the stage who were pulling the banner for Su Xianing were inexplicably excited when they saw this scene. The girl's heart was about to fly. F***CK, what kind of scene is this? It's too cool. Is this really the friendship between 2 girls? Boo-hoo, she dotes on me so much. Why is my brain filled with dirty thoughts? Ah, that young lady in the stands is amazing. She's too good. She's killing me. All of a sudden, someone in the crowd woke up. Wait. No. This is Bei Yunj. Hearing this, many people who had watched their traveling became excited. On the stands, Si Chengyan could not help saying, "Master Pei, it's not good to whistle in public, I don't want to either. Otherwise, Sister Yao won't be able to see me." Bei Yunj supported her head with one hand, her voice a little nasal. It sounded like she was feeling a little unwell. At this moment, Tich, who was in the front row, was silent for a long time before he poked Jasmine with his elbow. "With teacher around, are you sure you can flirt with Song Yao?" Jasmine was speechless. He did not expect to give Song Yao such a surprise. So, was he only worthy of being single? At this thought, Jasmine could not help but look at Song Yao. Seeing Song Yao's exquisite face flushed red, he felt that his biggest love rival might be his teacher. How could he catch up with her? Su Xianing glared at Bei Yunj in the distance and laughed coldly at Song Yao. "Since you're so capable and can get a spot in the competition, why don't you get one for Bei Yunj too? Student Su, you should take care of yourself." Song Yao smiled elegantly and calmly, her voice not aggressive at all. "I promised her that I would get first place since she's here. Listen to Yen." Su Xianing sneered. Although she said that she was dreaming, she began to be on guard. After all, there was an international player in Song Yao's team. But in the next moment, when all the contestants' information appeared on the big screen, everyone was shocked. The screen was filled with blue words, but only Song Yao's line was bright red. Contestant, Song Yao. Note, International Individual Player, F*CK, the international individual contestant is Song Yao? No wonder Song Yao could continue participating in the competition even after being chased away by the professor. The people in Su Xianing's group were discussing in low voices. Shut up. Su Xianing glanced at them coldly, then gritted her teeth and looked at Song Yao coldly. How was this possible? Why was Song Yao the international individual contestant? No. Impossible. Yu Ling, who was also unable to accept this fact, suddenly stood up from backstage. Her face was livid and her fingertips sank into the flesh of her palm.